the past 13 years, there's always been this lower for longer outlook or the static, easy monetary policy that works really well for index investors and passive investors. As far as this year's concerned, I think we're going through this major secular shift where rates and inflation are going to matter. And it's also going to be fueled by things like, deglobalization and decarbonization. So you're going to need someone to actually be making decisions if you want to navigate what could be a very treacherous 2022.
So give us a sense of your take on the divergence that we've seen so far between value and growth. Michael, is this a head fake, or is this the beginning of a rotation that could persist for more than just a couple of months?
Well, Lisa, I want to say your daily rundown was superb because I'm watching the same things that you are. And I do think this value versus growth argument is important. I've been in this value camp for most of 2021. So am I concerned about the head fake? A little bit, but I think last year's head fake really had to do with Jay Powell, looking for that further progress in the job market. And we're in a reverse situation this year where all of a sudden Jay Powell's become an inflation hawk. And again, inflation is a very regressive influence on the economy in the sense that it hurts the people who can afford the least the most. So it also becomes a political football. And in that case, I think Jay is going to be much more diligent this year than we've seen him in the past at the Fed. And I think that's going to be the key difference going forward, which I do think plays well for the value space.
Michael, the moment is a great bull market after 36 months coming off Christmas Eve of 2018. What is the character of this bull market into year 4?
You know what? It's driven by financial conditions. We have record easy financial conditions. Don't forget this easing policy that we've had started well before the pandemic. Powell started cutting rates in the summer of 2019. So, there's been a lot of liquidity piled at this market, a lot of fiscal stimulus. So I think what we're watching for as we shift gears here and look to a tighter policy, especially a monetary policy, whether it's obviously tapering and eventually balance sheet normalization and of course tightening, I think that's going to be the shift. But right now, the liquidity is abundant out there, and that's why we see so many bubbly aspects of this market. I mean, just to quickly go back to that value versus growth argument, Tesla had that move Monday. It added $140 billion in market cap. That's more than Citibank or Citigroup or Goldman Sachs. So again, there's a big disparity in this market out here. And again, that's what this liquidity is driving. As that slowly is taken away, we should see big shifts in the market.
Michael, I just want to pick up on that story on Tesla and just get a final thought from you on it. I think it's important. What does it say to you to see that much additional market cap added to that name off the back of each and every additional auto they beat estimates by? That to me just felt wild. I wouldn't call it insane, it happened, the market did it, but it felt wild to me, Michael.
It was definitely wild. What's interesting, are we valuing this company at $1 billion per unit sold? I mean, it is an insane move, but it is interesting because now you had Ford come out yesterday and they said they were going to ramp up their production of the EV F-150, and those shares had a nice move. What you're seeing is, obviously competition's coming into the space. People see the market reacting like that. Traditional automakers, Bloomberg obviously has a story this morning about Volkswagen and Toyota looking to make a push to take down Tesla. You had Sony come out at CES saying they're going to introduce their electric car. This type of euphoria and this type of market response definitely invites more competition, which is going to make the environment more challenging.
Ford had a massive year last year. Can they do that again? Michael, thank you, sir. Michael O'Rourke at Jones Trading, just going through some of the big issues right now. The passive versus active debate continues. This from UBS, a note they put out on active managers portfolio analysis. The top 5 overweight stocks globally: Microsoft, Facebook, Visa, United Health, Alphabet. 2 of the most underweight names, this surprised me, Apple and Tesla, still for active managers. That coming from the team over at UBS and Paul Winter. Unbelievable stuff. Futures this morning down about 2 on the S&P. We're basically unchanged. Alongside Tom Keene and Lisa Abramovich, I'm Jonathan Ferro. This is Bloomberg.
With the First Word News, I'm Ritika Gupta. The Chicago public school system has cancelled classes after the city's teachers union voted to shift to remote learning on Tuesday. About 73% of votes were in favor of the move. Union officials say remote instruction will end when either the COVID-19 surge subsides or Mayor Lori Lightfoot's team signs an agreement on conditions that are voted on and approved by the union. Hong Kong is imposing strict new virus control measures for the first time in nearly a year as Omicron seeps into the community. Chief Executive Carrie Lam says the city will ban inside dining after 6 p.m., close venues including bars and gyms, and scrap large-scale events. Officials are also barring flights from 8 countries, including Australia, India, the UK and the US. And Singapore says booster shots will be required to maintain vaccination status as the city-state prepares for an Omicron wave expected to be bigger than the last Delta wave. The health ministry says Singapore will continue to lean on home recovery and testing. Officials there also say Singapore will share its COVID-19 statistics with the CDC after the US said it had insufficient data for Singapore and urged Americans to avoid traveling there. Global News 24 hours a day on air and on Bloomberg Quick Take. Powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Ritika Gupta. This is Bloomberg. This is Bloomberg.
在呢为开春的时候为各国运动员和随队官员提供热情周到的服务。
Access the financial world on demand. Hear from leading economists, policymakers, and industry experts via live and on-demand webinars, only from Bloomberg. Start exploring to see what's moving the markets. Visit Bloomberg.com/webinars.
From the worker perspective, a recent headline, you got Kellogg's Cereal Union says the latest agreement that they had was rejected. Deere had to finally make a union contract. How concerned are you about the longshoreman contract and union negotiations right now?
Well, we're some time away from that. The contract expires on the 30th of June next year, and both sides have told me that they'll sit down to the table and begin negotiating in May. These are always important discussions, and usually when the spotlight is on our industry. But there'll be some issues around wages. The industry is making a lot of money. The longshore folks would like to see that. Now, I don't speak for either side, but training and development of the workforce will also be key as robotics and automation are front and center. The workers cannot be left behind.
Yeah, but to that point, I mean, do you feel like the balance, though, has shifted? I mean, for so long, workers had a lot less negotiating power. Do you feel like the pendulum's shifting?
The International Longshore and Warehouse Union, which does work across 29 West Coast ports, is very strong and a democratic organization.
Protesters breached the Capitol.
Democracy has prevailed.
A flash mob decided to take on the shore.
A giant container ship blocking the Suez Canal.
1,000 new types of crypto coins.
Crackdown on tech in China.
And
the billionaire space race.
The Delta variant of the COVID virus.
Evergrande is the most heavily indebted developer.
Of chip shortage.
Withdrawal of U.S. forces from Afghanistan.
We did not get everybody out.
Rising energy prices.
In Europe, it's a huge crisis.
The Omicron variant has triggered a global rush.
I think what we've seen during this period of time is that communicating via video.
If you're between 40 and 65 years old and don't have life insurance, then this message is for you. Until the end of January 2022 is the cheapest time for you to get life insurance to protect your family. Period. As little as £14 a month for £250,000 to £1 million in coverage. These plans will be more expensive at some point in 2022. So don't wait on this. All you have to do right now is take a quick and easy 3-question quiz. Click the button under this video and do it now. See if you qualify for coverage from just £14 a month. The video you want to watch here on YouTube will be right here after you're done. It only takes 30 seconds. We have car insurance in case of car accidents. We have home insurance in case of home accidents. Why aren't you protecting the most important thing to your family, your life? Take our quiz now. Click below to get started.
Video is not a fad. We are using it in all aspects of our lives, for work, for learning, for communicating, for staying in touch.
On testing. I know this remains frustrating. Believe me, it's frustrating to me. But we're making improvements. In the last 2 weeks, we've stood up federal testing sites all over the country. We're adding more each and every day.
The president under a little bit of pressure on this one issue. From New York City this morning, good morning, Tom Keene. Lisa Bramett and Jonathan Ferro, your equity market unchanged on the S&P and the Nasdaq down 48. The divergence there, a story we'll keep discussing. We're down 1/3% on the Nasdaq 100. Yields unchanged at 165 on 10s. As the price action muted, some marginal moves on euro dollar, a stronger euro, 113.19. Here's the story out of the Washington Post, Tom, in the last couple of hours. Let me get you all up to speed. Lawmakers begin early talks about another round of coronavirus relief targeting businesses and not consumers. It reads as follows. The early efforts are focused primarily on authorizing billions of dollars to help an array of businesses, including restaurants, performance venues, gyms, that face a potential blow from the story we've been talking about, Tom, now for much of the last 2 months.
And what's interesting, John, is we saw the distribution of money to small business the first time we went around this exercise was pretty moldy. You wonder, how do they distribute the money to the gym, John, that I work out at every day? How do they distribute that money given the problems before? I think my gym would get the money like a year or two later, which is probably the next time I'll visit it.
I've worked out with you in that gym, and I know that gym's doing okay because I know how that gym works. But Tom, you raise up a really, really important point. There's also been discussed here in New York City, not just the deployment of the Capitol, but the businesses that need help. You saw it from the New York mayor, Tom, the new New York mayor, New York City mayor, Eric Adams talking about it. The need to get people back into the offices because the businesses around those offices are really struggling at the moment in New York City and cities across this nation.
Well, we're seeing it in some difficult statistics supposedly out of the South. We may see those today as well. John, I just want to mention that the surveillance cough is worldwide. You can hear it in New York. You can hear the surveillance cough in Paris with Lisa. It's just great.
Thanks.
John, we need you to cough more often.
I'd
you
prefer
need
not
to keep
to.
up with the ill.
TK, hopefully I can
Thanks
avoid
so much,
that.
Tom.
Hopefully I can avoid that.
Okay,
Continue.
we're we're working on this as well. Right now, and this is a special joy to have Emily Wilkins join us from our Washington bureau. Emily Wilkins saw what is best in football as Michigan State was flat on their back in the Peach Bowl, and her team, the Spartans, came back boldly, and they came back boldly without one of the best football players in the history of the game, Kenneth Walker III. Emily Wilkins, who is President Biden's Kenneth Walker III? Who's going to come in and save the day for the President of the United States?
Well, at this point, I would say that the ball is in the court of Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. What we're going to hear from President Biden tomorrow is going to be very much tying the anniversary of January 6th with Voting Rights Act. And that's really something that's in the Senate right now. Chuck Schumer is trying to figure out if there can be some sort of bipartisan agreement going forward. If not, he needs to rally members of his own party for a potential rule change. That's the path that Schumer himself has laid out as far as what's going to happen in the next week. Although, to be frank, we're not seeing a lot of movement right now from Senators Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, two of several holdouts on making any sort of changes to the Senate rules that could make it easier to pass voting rights and other legislation.
Well, that's voting rights, which is a contentious debate wrapped around the midterms. Is Omicron so dominant that the political realities of the first Tuesday of November have been pushed aside?
I mean, it could be. Look, the Washington Post, as Jonathan mentioned, has reported that there is bipartisan consensus working together on a bill that could send billions of dollars to businesses for Omicron. This is something that we've seen Congress work on in a bipartisan manner in the past. It's something that we've seen support for from Republicans in the Senate as well as the House. I think, of course, there are a lot of details to be figured out between now and the time that something might pass. But Omicron has certainly changed the game in a lot of states, for a lot of businesses, for a lot of localities and states. And there is a sense that Congress might need to step up and really address things at this point.
But Emily, even if this makes sense, and even if there is popular support for the idea of this, how much support is there for additional rounds of stimulus at a time when Omicron is widely accepted as endemic? And a lot of people look to previous rounds of stimulus and conflate them all and say they're all incredibly inflationary.
I mean, those are really key questions, Lisa. And yes, if there are concerns about the amount of spending and inflation, that could easily wind up derailing any sort of potential bill here. I think it's going to come down to how big the price tag is, as well as what lawmakers are hearing from businesses in their own state about what their needs are, and sort of making sure they are balancing that going forward. Certainly the amount that the Washington Post is reporting, $68 billion, that is far less than what we saw from other amounts of spending for COVID, as well as other proposed legislation that's out there. So that price tag might be just small enough that lawmakers feel comfortable moving it forward. This legislation could also repurpose other funding from previous COVID bills. There have been concerns that the government has allocated funding that never got to the people who were supposed to get it in the first place. And additional legislation could make sure that that funding is indeed reaching the individuals who are still struggling with Omicron.
So I will say, Emily, a lot of people read the headline in the Washington Post and said this is just implausible given the political climate right now. You're saying that's not really true and that there actually is appetite to do something to basically prop up businesses in this acute moment.
I see that there is appetite. We're definitely seeing that. I think the question is, how big is that appetite? Is that appetite big enough that you can see those 10 Republican senators join Democratic senators in actually moving something forward? I think that's going to be the big question. And look, Washington's off to a really rocky start this year. Snow has kept senators from getting to the Capitol, from actually casting votes. And so I think it's going to take a little bit more time to get a sense of where everyone stands and if legislation like this is actually feasible, or if it's just something that a small group of lawmakers is hoping to get through but doesn't have enough momentum.
Emily, thank you. Emily Wilkins down in Washington, a rocky start down in Washington, D.C. Tom, I think it's fair to say an easier start than maybe what we're seeing take place in Almaty, Kazakhstan right now. For the president of Kazakhstan, a difficult first few days of 2022, that's for sure. They increased fuel prices, Tom. The president's had to accept the government's resignation today. The protests across the largest city in the country have been absolutely wild, if you've seen some of the pictures, Tom. This all over, apparently, an increase in fuel prices, things breaking down very, very quickly.
And I would suggest it's more than that. What I would suggest, John, as well, is I greatly am remiss that I missed our Monday show. I thought you were wonderful with Ian Bremmer about the top risks of 2022. And across all of the Eurasia Group risks, John, is the idea of the uncertainty wrapped around Vladimir Putin. He is going to look to Kazakhstan as instability across the former Soviet Union. And you just wonder how Putin responds to not only this, but to the set of issues that Anne-Marie Horton laid out 2 hours ago.
We will try and stay on top of that story for you. Tom Keane, Elisa Bramett and Jonathan Ferro, your equity market this Wednesday morning. And good morning to you all. Down about 3 or 4, negative 0.1% on the S&P. The Nasdaq again suffering, down 61, negative 0.4% on the Nasdaq 100. Yields up almost a basis point to 165.43 on 10s. For our audience worldwide.
Finding and hiring the right people for the task in your business can make the difference between success and failure. Fortunately, you need to look no further.
The 1.5 million tests, that's quite a feat. At the same time, I've seen estimates that say that'll get you through about a week or so. What do you do after that?
Let's be smart with our resources. Why not use the tests strategically when you need them? How are we using them? A child is diagnosed with COVID in a classroom. We give that entire classroom take-home test kits so their parents can test them, so we can determine if we should close down the school or just the classroom, or what we should do with that particular facility area. What has happened in the past, you had one diagnosis, we want to close the entire school. That just makes no sense. Instead of using our resources in a strategic fashion, the science has shown just because one child has COVID in the classroom, it doesn't mean the entire school or the classroom is infected. We're going to be smarter, and we're going to pivot, and most importantly, we're going to defeat COVID.
A lot's happening on Wall Street.
It's the basic law of economics.
The Fed is telling us this is transitory.
Need to catch up?
This is Bloomberg Wall Street Week. I'm David Weston.
We've got the information and insights.
David, you just hit the nail right on the head.
From businesses most influential and instrumental.
And that's the way you run good risk management.
We need to invest in our systems.
Bloomberg Wall Street Week premieres Friday with replays all weekend on Bloomberg Television and Radio.
come into every year with the same conversation. Is it the year, the time for active management? And then the index explodes higher. That's been a story for the last 3 years. 3 straight years of double-digit gains. Ben Lader of eToro says we can have 4. Big debate for you. Equity futures right now, -2 on the S&P. We go nowhere on the Nasdaq. That's where the price action's been, down 1/3%. Some underperformance there. And if you want to play the game beneath the surface, here's the sector story for you. Year to date, just 2 days in. Here's a picture. Switch up the board and get to it. The banks absolutely on fire, ripping higher, up almost 7% year to date so far, just 2 trading days. On S&P 500 tech names, we're down about 0.1%, so already significant outperformance for some of the financial names on Wall Street and beyond. Beyond that, you look to the bond market for support of that bank story. I'm looking at this right now. The conversation on 2s, 10s and 30s. Right now, 10s unchanged, 165, 2s at 76, but just the change at the Federal Reserve from even some of the biggest doves on the FOMC. Neil Kashkari saying the risk of ending up in a higher inflation regime is higher than the risk of ending up in a low inflation regime, even if the latter is still his base case. Now, Tom, this is a massive change of the story over the last 2 years. 2 years ago, when we were talking about rate cuts, it was an ounce of protection is worth a pound of cure. And now the conversation has changed. This is about avoiding ending up in a high inflation regime. And for that reason, even the likes of Neil Kashkari supporting 2 hikes for 22.
Oh, 2 hikes doesn't. I mean, John, to be honest here, let me go back to you on this, John. If we have 2 rate hikes, does that get us to accommodative and towards restrictive? I don't think so.
I don't think so, Tom, and I think you and I are both on the same page. That's a removal of accommodation, a very small removal of accommodation. That is not a tightening of monetary policy, not with real interest rates deeply negative where they are right now. 10s on a nominal yield, 165. That's the cross-asset price action. Just a sense of the story, the debates right now. Let's get you some single names and say good morning to Romain. Morning, Romain.
Hey, good morning, John. Of course, 2 big sell-offs in the tech space that we need to talk about, one here in the U.S. and one over in China. Of course, yesterday we saw the Nasdaq fall by about 1.4%, but really the damage was a lot worse than what that's seen. We should point out Nasdaq 100 futures down about 0.3% right now in the pre-market. Yes, it was the Nvidias, Apples, and Teslas of the world that helped to push that index lower here on the day, and most of those names are lower here in the pre-market. Nvidia down 1%, but it's the second-tier tech companies. A lot of these software names that have double-digit and in many cases triple-digit multiples out there. I'm talking about both on a price to earnings and even in some cases on a price to sales basis. Atlassian Team, which plunged yesterday, down another 3% here in the pre-market. Zscaler, which plunged yesterday, down another 1% here in the pre-market. The IGF, which is the main ETF that tracks a lot of these software stocks, setting up for what could potentially be a 4th straight day of losses. When you flip it up here, you take a look at some of the other areas that could be affected by some of these concerns about higher inflation and, yes, higher rates. Cathie Wood's ARK Innovation ETF was down 4.4% yesterday. It's lower here in the pre-market. A lot of the names baked into that ETF fall into that high multiple category, including Roku. Roku shares plunged yesterday by about 4%. They're down another 4% here in the pre-market. Remember, this is the second biggest holding in the ARK Innovation ETF after Tesla. And then you go over to China and you take a look at those Chinese tech stocks. Pinduoduo, representative of that right now, plunged about 10% yesterday, down about 3% here in the pre-market. We should point out that the Hang Seng Tech Index fell for a 4th straight day here. And once we get the NASDAQ Golden Dragon Index open here in the U.S., that's likely to fall now for a 4th straight day as well. Tom.
Romain Bostic, thank you so much. We welcome all of you worldwide now to an important conversation with Christian Muller-Glissman. He's with Goldman Sachs, but far more importantly, acclaimed for very dense, detailed reports on the view forward on asset allocation. Christian, thank you so much for joining us. One of the hearts of your report is the trajectory of the inflation-adjusted yield, and that the real rate in some way will migrate up through a negative statistic, up near a positive statistic. Is that a linear function, or do we have to worry about acceleration and the effect on our portfolios as the real yield moves out of the abyss it's in?
Yeah, listen, I think you asked the most important question for 2022. Are we going to get a significant increase in the real yield? And in particular, is it going to be gradual or is it going to be very quick? And will there be step changes? And if you look at the last few weeks, it's had this very clear reflationary behavior. The market has gotten less worried about Omicron, looking at the UK, looking at the cases, the hospitalization, the death rates, all of that. gives the market comfort that maybe the growth impact is less bad. So you go back to reflation template. So bond yields have gone up a lot and fast. But most of that increase has been inflation expectations, not the real yield. And this has been a story which we've seen all of last year. But for this year, the big difficulty is that the Fed is live and is going to start hiking. And what we found historically is once the Fed starts hiking, the real yields and the back-end real yields start to move higher. So our view is it's a gradual move. We are expecting implicit in our forecast maybe 30 to 40 bips. And that could very well be digested by equities in aggregate, but it means lower returns, and there's always the risk that it gets a bit shaky from time to time. Every time when we are in this kind of period where the Fed starts their tightening cycle, there's a risk of a bit more volatility.
Right. I got a follow-up to that, but that answer was so smart, Christian. I'm going to move on to other topics of the moment. I want you to speak for all of Goldman Sachs. I don't want to get you in trouble here with Mr. Solomon. But when are we going to finally end the active versus passive management debate? Give us your take on the value of active management after what we've seen the last 12 months.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it at the very early beginning already. I think if returns are slowing, if you start to see the beta as a driver of your portfolio return become less important, alpha automatically gets more important. And I think it's a typical early cycle versus mid-cycle discussion. Early in the cycle, things are highly correlated on the way down, on the way up, and it's all about getting the beta right. Whereas when you are going into a more mid-cycle backdrop, usually there is a place for active management. And we generally think that we are entering that type of period now, where even the style rotations, which have been very violent, and we saw a bit of that again in the last few days, even those style rotations become less significant relative to individual stock picking. So I definitely think that there is an increasing focus on active management. Active management is not just about stock picking. It's about the whole investment process, market timing. It's about timing regions. It's about timing styles and individual stocks. But we certainly see that there will be much more pressure and much more focus on active management as the type of return potential comes down a bit.
Christian, one of the active moves so far this year has been into value away from growth. And we keep talking about whether this is a head fake, something really similar to what we saw last year. Is this something that you think will portend a trend or simply something that will get reversed in 2 months?
To me, I think the whole coming cycle, there's a strong case for being a bit better diversified. I think in the last cycle, as we know, the best thing you could have done is own US large cap growth stocks. And you would have been very happy with the Sharpe ratio, very tough to beat. Whereas in the coming cycle, we think that the return differentials between regions and styles, as I mentioned, they might narrow. And there's a real risk benefit. I give you an example. The correlation between value and growth, the two styles, has actually declined in the last 20 years. So makes sense because growth has outperformed a lot, value hasn't done that well. But that type of correlation can be a diversification benefit. So it tells you that if you want to reduce portfolio risk, there's a really strong case to just strategically think about incorporating a bit more value stocks in your portfolio. But as you said yourself, there are these waves, and these waves have a bit of that flavor that after 1 to 3 months, you're done with. And I think there's a good risk that the kind of current value wave, again, will kind of accelerate and slow and maybe partially reverse, depending on the news flow we have on Omicron. But what's really different with regards to value versus growth compared to last year is, as I mentioned, that the Fed is very likely to start their tightening process via higher rates. And that means that you have maybe a bit more longevity towards this rotation.
Christian, before we let you go, I want to get your sense. Scott Cronert of Citigroup came out 2 days into the trading session and increased his S&P target for year end. Does it concern you that everybody is competing to be the biggest bull right now?
Listen, I think we look at the positioning and the sentiment a lot. And I think people are overweight equities. And they're probably at the margin more overweight quality equity, not really down in quality. And that combination has meant that we're not that worried. So I think people at the margin acknowledge that equities are kind of, especially relative to fixed income, they're having a lot of support from flows, from valuations, and to some extent from fundamentals. And I think that's correct. I think we are overweight equities as well. And we do actually think that there's more scope for demand for equities in the coming years if you continue to keep the cycle going. And what I would be worried about is if increasingly the bullishness is focused on very cyclical parts, and you see a lot of the indicators with regards to what we were just discussing, value, cyclical, riskier parts of the market leading for a prolonged period of time. And that could then kind of create a certain bullishness for the cycle, which eventually could get disappointed and create the risk of a larger correction. But we don't have that right now. So I think we're not that worried yet about the extent of bullishness we have.
Christian, thank you. Always good to hear from you, sir. Christian Müller-Glissman there of Goldman Sachs on a year ahead. I have to say, this time around, compared to where we were 12 months ago, I find this year and the debate much, much more interesting. There was just massive consensus on so many different issues. We're much, much more divided across asset classes on where the bond market's going to go, on where the equity market's going to go, on what the Fed will do, on a reduction of accommodation, on a tightening of monetary policy, all of the above. Futures down 5 on the S&P, negative 0.1% from New York. This is Bloomberg Surveillance.
With the First Word News, I'm Ritika Gupta. A record 4.5 million Americans quit their jobs in November. That's highlighting persistent churn in the labor market. The increase was broad across industries and pushed the quits rate up to 3%, matching the most in data going back all the way to 2000. The unprecedented level of resignation suggests a lingering struggle for employers to retain talent. Ford shares surged to a 20-year high after it doubled factory capacity for its battery-powered F-150 Lightning pickup. It's a sign of the car maker's optimism that electric vehicles could grow to 10% of the U.S. market this year. Ford is to start taking orders for the plug-in trucks this week after already receiving about 200,000 non-binding reservations. And Morgan Stanley is making a bet on office space in New York City. Bloomberg has been told the bank has sealed a deal to take over space that houses the headquarters of BlackRock, signing a 15-year lease for roughly 400,000 square feet in Midtown. It's amongst the biggest property deals signed in New York since the pandemic began. And China Mobile has surged in its first day of trade in Shanghai. The firm, which is the country's largest wireless carrier by sales, was removed from the U.S. market last year. The state-run company, one of the targets of an investment ban order by former President Donald Trump, rose as much as 10% before pairing the advance. Global News 24 hours a day, on air and on Bloomberg Quick Take, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Ritika Gupta. This is Bloomberg.
December's jobs report was a mixed bag.
The change in non-farm payrolls comes in only half the level we anticipated.
If you looked at unemployment, it's a fairly decent report, isn't it?
It's a terrific report.
How will Omicron show up in the final look at 2021 jobs?
COVID is clearly an issue.
The number one risk is a pandemic.
There's going to be a bit of a roller coaster ride.
Tune in for the December jobs report, Friday on Bloomberg Television and Radio.
What do we know and what don't we know? Because there's a lot of speculation, a lot of anecdotes circulating right now.
Omicron definitely has the characteristics to create us concern for many reasons. But also we have been prepared.
fire in flames. They don't care. We can lose it all. We don't stop it now. We'll lose our home.
Has enemies and wants the water starts to rise and heaven's out of sight. She wants the devil on her team. My Lucifer is lonely. There's nothing left to say now. You push me down to wait and see how much I bleed on this thing. You look so cool when you look at me. You look so cool when you're reading me. You left a spot and the getting down. Now your fingers in my mouth. Oh, what a trouble. Oh, what a trouble. Wake me from this dream. I'm still watching leaves on the screen. Wake me low my self-esteem. I'm still watching leaves on the screen. You push me down to wait and see how much I bleed on this thing. You look so cool when you look at me. You look so cool when you're reading me. You left a spot and the getting down. Now your fingers in my mouth. Oh, what a trouble. Oh, what a trouble. Wake me from this dream. I'm still watching leaves on the screen. Wake me low my self-esteem. I'm still watching leaves on the screen. Wake me from this dream. I'm still watching leaves on the screen. Wake me low my self-esteem. I'm still watching leaves on the screen.
If life isn't over, no, my feelings are there. My heart hasn't overcome the answers you left. There was no easy way for me. No. Believing in a fantasy. We had done without my star sides. You were changing, so I tried to stay calm, but you were far away. This life isn't over, no. My feelings are there. My heart hasn't overcome the answers you left. It isn't over now. My feelings are intense. I just can't get it up. I don't want nobody else. This life isn't over, no. My feelings are there. My heart hasn't overcome the answers you left. This life isn't over, no. My feelings are there. My heart hasn't overcome
Summertime, and the living's easy. Bradley's on the microphone, we're Raz AMG. All the people in the dance will agree that we're well qualified to represent the LBC. Me and Louis, we're gonna run to the party and dance to the rhythm, it gets harder. Me and my girl, we got this relationship. I love her so bad, but she treats me like shit. I'm locked down like a penitentiary. She's spreading loving all over, and when she gets home, there's none left for me. Summertime, and the living's easy. Bradley's on the microphone, we're Raz AMG. All the people in the dance will agree that we're well qualified to represent the LBC. Me and Louis, we're gonna run to the party and dance to the rhythm, it gets harder.
I'll take this veil from off my eyes. My burning sun will someday rise. So what I'm gonna be doing for a while? Said I'm gonna play with myself.
Show them now we've come off the shelf. Summertime, and the rhythm's easy. Bradley's on the microphone with Raz AMG. All the people in the dance will agree that we're well qualified to represent the LBC. Me and Louis, we're gonna run to the party and dance to the rhythm, it gets harder. Ava, I'm come to tell you that you're safe. Most definitely. Ava,
moving into the middle innings of the economic cycle. We have properly moved past the trough in economic activity, and we're moving towards something that is more sustainable and needs less support from the Fed. So that's the removal of accommodation. If you're talking about tightening, that's the point where we get towards the end of the cycle and we begin to see recessionary-like conditions as policy becomes more and more restrictive. We're not there right now when we look around the economic landscape. ISM remains very strong, and many other economic indicators point towards really solid economic growth. So I think, to your point, it's much more of a story of removal of accommodation rather than economic tightening.
Patrick, what do the quants say right now when you look at the cross moments of the markets? The VIX is driven profoundly under 17. Can you predict a more subdued volatility? Do we get a true bull market, VIX of 15 or 14? What do the quants say right now?
I think it's very likely that as we move through the year, we're going to see volatility start to dip below 15 for longer periods of time. What has really helped markets really in late December was the fact that the VIX did start to renormalize back towards this mid-teen level, and that's really a big driver of equity upside. And we think that's part of the call in this year. The VIX is still going to continue to fall. I don't think we're going to get quite as far as we were in the high single digits, very low double digits, but I think we could start to move towards a low to mid-teen level, and that's going to support further equity upside, particularly for the cyclical groups which benefit from that volatility.
Credit Suisse at 5,200 year-end on the S&P. Patrick Palfrey of Credit Suisse. Patrick, thank you, sir. 5,200 at Credit Suisse, 5,250 at Deutsche Bank, 5,300 at BMO, 5,330 at Oppenheimer. TK, they're the big bulls on the street going into the year ahead.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned that, John, because I've been out of touch here a little bit, and I didn't realize we were out nicely to 5,200, 5,300 from some of the bull market case. You wonder how the bears regroup. John, I'm really interested off of the jobs report in Ellen Zentner's work on Friday, how Mike Wilson recalibrates.
I understand Ellen's looking for 260 on Friday, Tom. The median estimate is 424. The difference between, say, Morgan Stanley and Credit Suisse right now, there are many, Lisa, but let's pick up on one of them. Credit Suisse at 5,200, Morgan Stanley at 4,400. You speak to Credit Suisse, they say this is a removal of accommodation. You speak to Morgan Stanley, Lisa, they'll tell you tapering's tightening.
Well, and really, tapering is one step on a train that we are discovering, and it's going to be with rate hikes, and that seems to be the commonplace idea. But how much does the balance sheet really throw a wrench in some of these projections? And I know that I'm just, a stereotype of being and trying to look around the corners to all of the bearish places that we could possibly go. But this is the one that I keep hearing that really stands out to me. Balance sheet reduction changes the scenario and is a less controlled impact on markets than, say, rate hikes, and frankly, a less understood one. So any discussion of that could be a risk scenario that I wonder could be perhaps interpreted more as tightening.
Lisa, do you think we've got too comfortable with the old timeline, the timeline in the previous cycle, when there's pretty good indication right now that that is not going to be the timeline used potentially for this timeline? And I don't just mean the timeline of sequencing, I mean the order of the sequencing as well for policy. Chairman Powell opened that conversation up, I think, in a significant way in the last news conference.
And I think that you're pointing to Neil Kashkari, the key dove from Minneapolis on the Federal Reserve, is talking about 2 rate hikes and the balance of risks tilted a little bit more to inflation than perhaps undershooting, highlights how much that scene has shifted.
President Kashkari, the costs of ending up in the high inflation regime are likely larger than the costs of ending up back in the low inflation regime. The Fed dove sounding a little bit different. Equity futures down 7 on the S&P from New York City with Tom Keene and Lisa Bravitz. I'm Jonathan Ferro. This is Bloomberg Surveillance.
With the First Word News, I'm Ritika Gupta. North Korea appears to have launched another ballistic missile. It originated on land and traveled into waters off the nation's east coast, according to South Korea's military. Officials in Tokyo say the missile landed in waters outside of Japan's exclusive economic zone. The launch comes days after leader Kim Jong-un urged his state to focus on easing food shortages and containing COVID-19. China Huarong Asset Management is slumping on its return to trade following a 9-month suspension. The bad debt manager says it has taken steps to return to its core business after raising more than $6 billion in a state-led bailout. Huarong's shares were suspended last April following a delay in its 2020 results. Bulgaria's new Prime Minister, Kirill Petkov, redoubled the government's commitment to adopt the euro in 2 years in the face of fragile support amongst voters battered by the force of the pandemic. He tells Bloomberg that a transition from Bulgaria's leb to the euro might be treated with care and requires a full-scale public information drive.
Yes, we're fully committed, so there is no doubt about that. 1st of January 2024. We fully understand the economic benefit of it.
The comments were the first explicit euro pledge made by Petkov since he took office in December. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Bloomberg Quick Take, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Ritika Gupta. This is Bloomberg.
Protesters breached the Capitol.
Democracy has prevailed.
A flash mob decided to take on the shore.
Giant container ship blocking the Suez Canal. 1,000.
You say you love me, I say you crazy. We're nothing more than friends. You're not my lover, more like a brother. I know you since we were like 10. Don't mess it up, talking that shit. Only gonna push me away, that's it. When you say you love me, that makes me crazy. Here we go again. Don't go look at me without looking your eye. You really ain't going away without a fight. You can be reasoned with them being polite. I told you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,000 times. Haven't I made it obvious? Haven't I made it clear? Want me to spell it out for you? F-R-I-N-D-A. Haven't I made it obvious? Haven't I made it clear? Want me to spell it out for you? F-R-I-N-D-A. F-R-I-N-D-A. Have you got no shame? You're looking insane, turning up at my door. It's 2 in the morning, the rain is pouring. Haven't we been here before? Don't mess it up, talking that shit. Only gonna push me away, that's it. Have you got no shame? You're looking insane. Here we go again. Don't go look at me without looking your eye. You really ain't going away without a fight. You can be reasoned with them being polite. I told you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,000 times.
equity market can hold in. There's ample liquidity out there. The fear of missing out was a huge driver of trades in 2021, and I think people now they're sort of closing their eyes in buying equities, but they're worried.
Ferridge there, the head of asset strategy at State Street from New York City, alongside Tom Keene and Lisa Brabbits. I'm Jonathan Ferro. Your equity market down 4 in the S&P, negative 0.1%, a monster number from the ADP. Mike McKee, we were looking for 410. What did we get, sir?
Well, as you said, John, outliers get people's attention. 807,000 jobs. That's almost double the forecast for 410,000. The prior month revised down to 505. Remember, we had a surprise in the Labor Department payroll numbers for November, but this is going to cause people to rethink what we're going to get on Friday when the jobs numbers come out. Of these 807,000 jobs, 669,000 were in service-producing industries, including 246,000 in leisure and hospitality. These are the jobs that have been missing so far from the economy. And so if there is some credibility, and of course, when you do ADP, you've got a very long safe harbor statement, you could see a bigger number than Wall Street is anticipating. Right now, the bet among economists is we see a total change of 424,000 on Friday, 384,000 for private sector jobs, which is what would compare with ADP. So perhaps we have seen a turn and people are starting to get hired.
424, the median estimate, though, as you know, Mike, that range is massive again. At the top end, it's 1 million, with Ian Shepherdson, the estimate, at 1 million over at Pantheon Macroeconomics. Here's the move in the bond market, Tom. Just a little shift higher on a 10-year by a single basis point to 77. On 10s, Tom, yields higher by half a basis point to 165. I know this has got your attention in the commodity market, Tom, pushing 81 on Brent, 377 on WTI this morning.
I think it's underplayed. It certainly reconfirms some of the trends we've seen over the first early days of 2022. But I would talk about a global tone, John, to Omicron being less of a problem, PCR tests being cleared, and you see it on a worldwide basis through Brent crude at 81. The shock of Brent through 84 to 85 would be unimaginable.
Inching higher this morning. Mike, I just want to come back to you and get a decent playbook for the payrolls report on Friday. Given the disruption, the potential disruption of the variant, given the all-important survey week where that fell, where the disruption really kicked in, Mike, how are you thinking about those issues going into Friday?
Well, it's kind of interesting because ADP went out of their way to mention that their survey numbers, which are for the whole month, fall sort of between when Delta started to fade and when Omicron came out. So we had a sort of interregnum there in which people got hired. Now, as you mentioned, the Labor Department numbers are taken at the beginning of the month, just when Omicron was getting started, and probably didn't have much of an effect. So it could be that we see a strong December followed by an uncertain January, because we don't know what's going on now with Omicron. And even if people wanted to keep hiring, they may have put plans on hold while they wait to see what the impact is going to be.
Mike, the asterisks on this jobs report will be dramatic, which makes me wonder what data point within the number is going to matter most. And I keep thinking perhaps it's not the headline number. Is it still going to be the participation rate that most people are going to look to for guidance?
Well, the participation rate is something that the Fed is very concerned about, and if it keeps going up, and it would probably have to get the kind of numbers that we saw from ADP, that's good news from their perspective because it means that the labor markets are healing. But I wonder, Lisa, if this time we're not seeing Wall Street at least anticipate a different number being more important, and that is average hourly earnings on a year-over-year basis. They think it's going to drop to 4.2%. That's the Bloomberg consensus, from 4.8%. That would be a big drop, and it would suggest that the wage pressures we were seeing might have started to ease. Again, we'll caution that 1 month is just one data point and doesn't necessarily make a trend, but that's the kind of thing that the Fed would be looking for in terms of inflation, and certainly what bond traders are going to be looking for.
Mike, I've got to go to the acclaimed Mike. Everybody else has a last name at a Fed press conference except for Mike. And right now, the way that Mike can do this is to be rude as all get out and bring up the 70s or the 60s and talk about wage spiral. Are we anywhere near a wage spiral, Michael McKee?
Not yet. A lot of analysts have looked at this and don't see relationship developing so far. In part because it hasn't gone on long enough. It took a couple of years of that to really push inflation up in the 1970s. And in part because we don't have the labor unions that we used to have that could engage in pattern bargaining where Ford got a contract and everybody else had to match
Futures back
that.
in negative
And so
territory once again this morning, coming off a
wages
negative
spread
showing
throughout the
yesterday
economy.
outside of the Dow that closed at yet another all-time high. Everything else was lower, though, as we had tech and anything growth-related back in negative territory by the end of the session. It was the NASDAQ that led the way to the downside. We just got that ADP private sector payrolls number. Huge beat there right across the board. 807,000 versus 375,000 expected, so more than doubling up on that number. That's, of course, coming ahead of the Friday jobs report we'll get before the market opens on Friday at 8:30. Look at December employment. So a bit of a move back to the upside, not quite back to positive territory, however. We'll also be paying close attention to and watching the Fed minutes coming out this afternoon. A little bit quiet ahead of that, I think, as we get a look at exactly what took place in the last Federal Reserve meeting minutes. Beyond Meat shares moving around here this morning. KFC announcing they're going to launch a fried chicken version.
through 66. So, I mean, again, we may punch the long and go through there, but I like to look at GM for a short today. But what a great day it was yesterday. We had that Ford trade, which was an absolute monster. Hope we, Ford in, and then finally out right there at the end of the day for just a monster victory there for Ford. And unfortunately, we weren't able to find our way back in. We should have been in here, back down to 24, and that looks like where we're going to open today. So that's why I'm a little bit nervous about some of these names. I'm not super excited about the longs today for Ford or GM. But hey, if they print, they print, and we'll play the momentum. But for right now, yep, a little bit nervous here about some of these tops on both Ford and GM. Nicola Fisker,
LGBN.
Tesla,
Yeah, I was just going back and forth. GM obviously in the spotlight today with the Silverado coming. Just going back and forth a little bit with Justin there, telling him, it's interesting, just the simple angle that they've chosen CES to launch this truck. So trucks are now consumer electronics, which is kind of cool. Before we go any further, Miss B is here, ready to go. Good morning.
Good morning, team. Happy trading to you all. I wish you a positive, profitable day. Please make sure you like this video and let's get it started, Brandon.
Yeah, let's get it started, guys, with a headline on ExxonMobil here, just coming across as we get going. They had new discovery, it looks like, offshore in Guyana. So another group, if you remember, that was just monstrous yesterday. These energy stocks, past couple of days, in fact, I just saw XOM ticking up here back to 66.50. For XOM. U.S. 10-year higher again today, so Treasury yields are going back up. We'll talk about the banks a little bit, but I mean, we're only back to, the highs from Tuesday, I think it was. We had that decent move back to the upside, but nice look here for XOM to start things off.
That's actually the 52-week right there, isn't it? That looks like, I'm going to get the exact price. I'll ask you on the e-signal, but let's just call it 66.50, 66.55, where XOM is right now. Like, if you're going to believe in energy, you can pick your names, you can go with an ETF, but I think it's starting to get back into we should be trading them. I remember in the beginning of the pandemic, when oil prices were going nuts. Like if you watch the show, we were like daily trading Oxy, trading XOM, and sort of using energy as a vehicle. And then it turned into, okay, well, let's look at the travel names, let's look at the EV names, and again, that's just a sort of maturation and sort of moving on to what's going well in the markets. But getting back into the energy names, like I watched Oxy's chart and I was just like, what am I doing? Not even having it up. So I'm gonna add XOM to my list. I did have Oxy. And we can maybe talk about that one a little bit later. But I didn't even realize we're looking right at this top here, 66.50 on XOM. Looks like it's primed to break out once again. It does feel, you get the feels right now that with things starting to roll back over. I just saw Beyond Meat break 67. So that kind of took out the pre-market low. Starting to come back in a little bit here, and they have energy rising again. I'm in Pfizer, but Pfizer has news. They didn't make the watch list, but they have two pieces of good news. So I think that's maybe a little bit of a different story. But if you get energy, banks, and some of your durables rallying again, obviously I think that's going to mean the opposite for tech and growth. We'll see what happens, but great level there for XOM. There's no volume here, so I don't really see any reason to jump into a trade, but this could be a buy the dip situation if it wants to even give you any kind of a test. I don't know why this is. Oh, there we go. Yeah, back into like 65 or so, but I'll be putting this on my list for sure.
Yeah, I was talking about this a while ago, and we talked about it yesterday. Maybe picking up something like an XLE, something that is, an energy name here. If you're worried about missing, this is of course is an energy trust. So they're going to hold. You can find the holdings. I mean, they're going to hold all those names: the Chevrons, the XOMs, everything that we're talking about here. I don't know about Marathon, but anyway, this has been a nice move up to the upside here. Unfortunately, oil's been a trade that's been ignored, and we don't really talk about it too much, which doesn't make much sense. I mean, it's been just a nice little move up here. Just like some of the banks, it's kind of a flight, a little bit of a flight to safety here as there's been a lot of predictions for oil to obviously start to head to the north side, and we're doing that right now on light sweet crude. I mean, it's been a banger for sure. Right there, we can see $F. We talked about that yesterday as well. You can see right here, we're up to 77 and change on crude. So again, another move up here today, looking to take out, eventually $80. So I think you got to have some sort of exposure here. For a day trade, I'm not sure what we like here. Obviously, that news about XOM just coming down now, finding in, I think it was Guyana there. So we'll wait to see, what that does for XOM, but it's already breaking out. Yeah, past high was 66.38, so we're already breaking through the 52-week high. It's been a nice move up for XOM. Let's see today if it can hold something like 65. But that's we're way off of that now. So we'll have to see where it goes. But for right now, XOM, just a battle back and forth here. I think you got to buy oil on any dips, but for a day trade, I'm not super excited. A quick look here on the imbalance locator. Uber there. I mean, some of these names are already sells. You see the banks are buy. There's BAC right there. NEO, another sell right there coming through. So we'll see if that hits. TSM was a big one yesterday, up to, it's been big lately, up to 131. And then Uber with the sell to 44.25. But all these names are still okay. They're all flat on the day. Uber's flat on the day. What is Taiwan Semi? Yeah, okay, down 2%, so that's not good. There's your Pfizer down here with 80,000 to buy. That's not going to be a big number. But yeah, let's wait to see what happens here. But today should be a good day, again, for the Dow names and, for the properly valued names, the PE names. But I'm very, very nervous for DraftKings. We have it on our sticky note today. A lot of writing on here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 names, but I'm worried about a few of them. So let's wait to see where we go here today. It should be another dangerous day for the NASDAQ, I think.
Was going to mention a couple of things from CES. Obviously, CES underway right now in Las Vegas. A lot of it happening virtually this year. Here's that note on Pfizer and BioNTech that came out this morning. They're going to expand their mRNA library, including a single dose or single shot vaccine for shingles, which is interesting. But it's up 2%. This thing's been down a couple of days in a row here. BNTX not really doing much of anything. It is positive as well this morning. But yeah, good look for Pfizer here, guys.
The reason I like Pfizer in the vaccine plays is because they have a broader pipeline. So on the way up, as things got explosive, you kind of figured your downside wasn't going to be as big because obviously they have a lot to fall back on. They also had the dividend, so it made it a safer play. It also meant it didn't run like Moderna would or BNTX would run. So obviously that's going to be a different story, but you're starting to see volatility in this name, right? Like it's made it's had multiple days here. You can kind of go back, starting in November, it started to really have these massive moves, and now you're getting the first, significant pullbacks, and you see it pull back off $60 and get right into the previous high, 55, 56. It makes a bottom nowhere close to 50 period. Then you get a positive catalyst here today. And, I look at that and consider the fact that if we're living with this forever, then I think the pill is huge for them, first of all. And then two, further applications of mRNA technology, it's just going to be a win for Pfizer. So I did take a break position here. And again, I think it's a decent-sized gap. Obviously, what happened yesterday with the flush, it's a decent-sized gap to be filled. I do like the dip buy in front of the afternoon high. That's down around 55 as well. I do have a bid in front of it, but I did take a little bit for the top-end break here when 55.60 went, and I would want to be covering maybe some in front of 56, but definitely in front of that shelf that got broken down, like 56.25, 56.30, right here when the pre-market low broke yesterday. Pretty much exactly coincides with this breakout going all the way back to mid-December when it went parabolic into that double top. So it's interesting, these levels, and it's easy to say this, but it's worth saying because when you talk about what you miss, you try not to miss it the next time. When you look at a level like this, if you're watching the pre-market action in Pfizer yesterday, this is right before the open, you had the bottom on Tuesday here at that 56.30. You could then also see that it was a breakout price. That's a pretty significant level to get broken and kind of sets you up for a bit of a follow-through style trade. So obviously I'm bullish on Pfizer in general, so I don't think I was looking for that type of a play, but probably should be. The same way I wasn't willing to take a good short setup on Tesla, I wasn't even looking for one on Pfizer, but I like it for the long side today. If it takes out 55, I'm sitting it out until 54. So you can consider that a relatively tight stop, I suppose, but I'm not going to sit there dying on swords. I'll take one or two swings. The same way I managed to survive NVIDIA when it just got crushed yesterday was by acknowledging the fact that, hey, when you're wrong, you're wrong. Find yourself a better level and then work back to that instead of just sort of averaging in. But I do like the long and Pfizer today.
I see everybody talking about Palantir. We'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, Moderna, again, another name just bouncing around. There's not much happening today on this. It's only down 0.03, so that's a flat day for Moderna. If you get above 240, maybe that's something for that name. I don't know if that's going to happen today. It's going to have to rally on some kind of news. I mean, pill's getting accepted on Pfizer. Merck has the pill too. Moderna's kind of left alone for that. They're just going to be a pure vaccine play, it seems like. So again, who knows if there's more variants coming on. Apparently there's Flumicron now. We talked about that in France yesterday. So, that could mean something else here. But hey, I don't know. I'm just hoping for the best and that we don't really need too many more vaccines or booster shots or whatever's going on. So I don't really like Moderna at these levels. I don't know. You got to let it settle down a bit, in my opinion here. It's just been too volatile the last month and a half. Like when you go up to 380 and then back down to 225, it's a little bit too volatile. So we're going to sit here and wait to see where it winds up. Like I'm wondering if it's more of a play down in, I mean, this is a long ways away. I mean, down here, like 150 or so, but that could be an area of concern for me down here at 150. So maybe something like that, but Moderna is very, very tippy here. So it could take this 220 out in the next couple of days, and then it's down from there. So anyways, I'm not an investor in any of these names, but we'll wait to see where we go. Moderna right now, a better name is Pfizer, I think.
All right, Jeff Mendel joining us, VP OTC Markets, with a look at what is happening heading into the new year. Jeff, first off, Happy New Year. Good to see you, as always. Welcome to 2022.
Happy New Year, Brendan. Things seem a little crazy behind me. I'm sorry, actually. There's no one in the office today. It seems like we're back to 2020 right now. But I guess to start things off, we'll take a look at GBTC and ETHE for the first time this year. So both are trading relatively flat this morning, but yesterday they had strong volume, decent amount of activity as well too. Another couple of names that I want to take a look at this morning, Tencent, TCEHY. I think you guys are pretty familiar with that one. It's trading down a little bit in the pre-market today, but I want to keep an eye on that. And then also another name that we don't really bring up too much is a company called BYD. Its ticker is BYDDY. It's actually trading down. It looks around 10% this morning. A little bit of volume in the pre-market, but probably something to keep an eye on if you guys are looking to play something different today.
Yeah, lots of opportunities across the board as we kick things off in January here. Jeff, wanted to mention, if people are joining us for the first time, maybe over the past couple of days, we've noticed some of the most active symbols, once again, coming out of the European market. So there are, and it's worth mentioning here, ADRs that are listed here in the U.S. that people can get access to, maybe moves that are happening, early in the morning as European markets get underway, obviously well before U.S. markets do. So some of those names worth talking about as far as volume as well.
Yeah, so two that I mentioned, right? Tencent and BYD. They are, I think they're Asia Pacific, but another couple of names, a lot of names are Germany. Usually like Volkswagen, BMW, to name a few, and then names like Adidas and Nestle's. These are all names that trade over the counter, and they're all tradable on OTCX as well too. So yeah, definitely lots of names to look at. Europe, globally, right? Let me bring up Volkswagen real quick. Let's see what's going on over there. The ticker is VWAPY. Let's see. There's actually a few trades in the pre-market this morning. It's a name that always trades a decent amount, always has a lot of liquidity. And like I mentioned, you can check out OTCX in that name, and you'll always be able to get a fill.
Yeah, great resource as well. I wanted to bring up for those maybe, as I mentioned, anyone new. We'll start things off in a new year with a look at great resource for those interested in OTC markets, guys, right on their homepage. You can scroll down to market activity here, and it just gives you a list of some of the most active names. You can sort by volume, share volume, or notional here. For those being traded, there's GBTC, ETHE as well, among a few of the names listed there by Jeff. Anything else viewers need to be aware of, Jeff, as we get going here on a Wednesday?
little bit more technical, but you will start to see OTCN in the box in a lot of these really popular names over the next couple of weeks. It's actually a depth of book feed that is available for the first time in the over-the-counter market. So look for OTCN in the box. It's the same liquidity that you see on OTCX, but yeah, that's a good one for the guys out there who are a little bit more technical and are looking for more tools in the space.
A brand new year, brand new tools. Always a good note to leave things off. Jeff Mendel, VP OTC Markets, thank you so much. As always, sir, we'll speak again soon.
Thank you, Brendan.
A few names there, guys, from our friend Jeff Mendel on OTC, guys. It has been a volatile, to say the least, start to the year for cryptocurrencies. He mentioned GBTC and ETHE on PK market here for anyone at Day Trade the World.
Yeah, what I found most interesting is we talk about like the Chinese EV numbers and all the time how BYD, the backed by Warren Buffett, leads the way. And it's like, why did we never think about the fact that they would trade in the OTC? Because you can trade it here. So look, they're obviously a competitor. They're not like, they don't make the same type of vehicle as maybe what NIO and some of the nicer sedans are doing, maybe a little more simplistic. But yeah, they have been doing incredibly well. If you look at any of the numbers, they've been blowing everyone out of the water. Usually they're number one on all the lists, and then like you'll see Tesla like 2, 3. Xpeng usually is up there. But yeah, BYD, that's the value of the OTC market. Sometimes trading these names that you can only access in North America in the OTC markets, whether it's European names, whether it's out in Asia. So once again, Jeff teaches us a little bit of something, and I didn't see him talking too much about Dallas, but I'll kind of leave that.
Batteries. Well, Dallas won, didn't they, this weekend? Or did they? I can't remember. I think they did. But they're in that NFC least. So I don't know who's going to come out of that. But
Dak's arm is looking as good as mine. That's all.
Philly looking nice. But the problem with Dallas, and I know we have a lot of people on the chat here with Dallas, but their weapons. I mean, they have like CeeDee Lamb, Amari. It's just if they get it together, that's the only team in the NFC right now for the Packers that I'm worried about. So we'll see. But they're gonna. I mean, Dak's not coming to Lambeau and winning, and I've already said that.
Fighting words Tampa
in the chat. Tampa Bay. Give me a break. Okay, so, but Tom Brady is the master of the big game. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Tom Brady versus anybody, I think you got to take Tom Brady in a one-on-one there for that. But I'm hoping that the gods of Lambeau will come through here. I mean, as an owner of the company, or of the team.
What's a company?
Yeah, I guess it's a company. As the owner of the team there, I'm a little bit nervous. GBTC, again, another great name brought to you by Jeff Mendel there and the OTC markets. If you did want to get into an equity space, obviously I trade BTCC over in Toronto as an investment, but the same kind of thing here on the Grayscale product. Moves with Bitcoin. As you can see, Bitcoin's really been stuck. I can call up the Bitcoin chart, but this will be good enough. Bitcoin's been stuck here the last month, basically, from the beginning of December till now. Sure, it's down, but it's kind of in this little range here where we bumped up and then come right back in. So again, Bitcoin, Ethereum, we all know what's good. It's at 46, 45,000. That 45,000 mark. When that does break, then you'll probably get, not probably, this will follow it almost 1-to-1, but you'll get a breakdown below this $30, $31 level. So let's wait to see what does happen with Bitcoin here. But GBTC, a great tool, and ETHE, another good one. And they do have Litecoin ones, LTCN as well. So there are a few that do some decent volume going through. But hey, Grayscale products, good on the pink sheets for sure. Other ADRs, Adidas is a good one for that. And I like Tencent if you do like any of the Chinese names. Brendan, how are the upgrades and downgrades looking today, my friend?
Yeah, a few notable ones once again this morning. Tesla back on the board to the upside. Barclays liking Tesla. There's Pfizer. Intel, Chevron to the upside. Interesting, Chevron and Oxy. Wells Fargo not liking Oxy. There's been back and forth all week long with these energy names. Domino's, Kellogg's, and Regeneron, guys, to the downside.
Regeneron. You're just noticing up there, like Chevron with the upgrade by Wells, Oxy with the downgrade. Look, in terms of a better company, I think I'll go with Chevron. I mean, Oxy's got the plastics thing going on, but yeah, to own, I prefer Chevron. I just think Oxy's usually a little bit more volatile to be able to day trade. But Tesla getting the upgrade, but didn't they? 325 price target. It's always interesting because analysts are just all over the place with their prices on Tesla. Like I saw someone that had a neutral at like 250.
Yeah.
Neutral at two. How that? I almost said how the. How can you be neutral at 200?
You could say how the heck.
How the heck can you be neutral? My daughter thinks heck's a bad word. I say that and she's like, bad word, daddy. So.
Like Tyrone Bigham's like, the Packers are 39-9 under LaFleur. Like, come on.
The Packers are great, but I mean, Tom Brady's Tom Brady. Tom Brady's broken my soul as a Bills fan for years. So
I mean,
it's hard for me to
the only problem with the Packers is our quarterback is 1-4, right, Neil, in NFC Championship games.
Oh.
So I mean, the fact that they've been there 5 times is amazing. But he's not performing under big games. So hopefully he doesn't worry too much about the Pat McAfee show and all that stuff, and he focuses on winning the damn game.
I love Pat McAfee, by the way.
He's
great.
I'm only saying that because him and Aaron Rodgers have like some sort of a bromance there. So as long as they get their stuff together. So Intel, I saw Northland Group there, grabs the upgrade, I believe. Not a big name, obviously, upgrading them, but if you try, and I just said to Neil, like, I got to try to get long something today, right? So maybe it's going to be Intel. I mean, we look at AMD as well, but Intel yesterday, they revealed new chipset yesterday, so that started to get going. You can see there was really no good volume yesterday. Intel, though, closed the day before 53.15. Closed yesterday lower, so it was a lower day for them, but basically flat at the end of it all. So although we did have some wreckage yesterday, obviously you can see a name like an AMD. This Longeveron just bouncing back and forth. I took a little bit of profit there. Oh, come on. We still have the Intel chart? Oh, God. All right. Anyways, relative to AMD, like it just said AMD and then it flipped back for some reason. Relative to AMD yesterday, you could see down from 152 all the way to close at 144. You know, that's a big move down, $8 downwards. You don't see the same pull. We can see NVIDIA as well in pull to the downside, of course, with Intel. So, you know, that's, we talked about old tech becoming, this looks like the AMD chart again. Old tech becoming new again. You've seen IBM start to rally their face off. Wow, what's that? Nice little bump up here in the NQs right now. And you've seen a name like IBM. Yeah, that brings me to Qualcomm. I think Qualcomm needs to be bought as well. Wow, IBM up to 138. So you see this name yesterday basically saying, hold my beer to everything, because as new tech gets pummeled here, IBM just continues to work. The best daily chart. I cannot find a more attractive daily chart than this. Look at this, Lucas. From 116, just do, like absolutely a monster here.
Where's the red?
International business machines. Yeah, just ripping off right here, right back into the upside. So, like, completes a Miss V. This should be Valeria's favorite stock here. Miss V, look at the screen. Look at this. Down and up. This is a Miss V stock right here. So, I think IBM, there we go. Yeah, almost exactly like that. The two peace signs, throw them up there, a nice little V. So, you know what? Let's get over to Miss V right now, if we can, because honestly, I hit the like button, but there's over 4,000 people watching right now. We've got the sticky note out. We're killing it today. We've got football talk. We're both in positions. This has been a fun day. Brendan's killing it like as per usual. So let's go over to Miss V if we can. Can we, guys?
Hey, guys.
Thumbs up. All right,
let's
over to Miss V for likes. What's up, Miss V?
What's up, Sean? Let's talk a little bit. Guys, please smash the like button. Let's do them earlier today. And it will be our goal to get more than 2,000 likes today. So please, if you just joined us, if you forgot to like, do it right now. And let's get at least 1,000 before the bell for the lucky day. Back to you.
Yeah, come back here because, yeah, keep it on this. Because, Miss V, I've noticed, and maybe I'm wrong here, but I think you've stepped up your earring game. Like, I feel like there's a bunch of new earrings. Was that a Christmas present? What's going on with that? Is that like a new obsession? Because I know, like with me, I start to wear shoes, and the next thing I know, I bought 5 pairs. Like, what's up with the earring game?
Thanks for noticing. Yeah, it was just pre-New Year shopping. You know, they say like you should celebrate New Year in something new because it's New Year, right? So yeah, made some shopping. Thank you for noticing.
Okay, yeah, hey, no problem. Thank you. If anyone wants to send out some earrings, maybe Ms. V will model them for you. So let us know about that. But thank you, Ms. V. So I'm really glad that is true. Sometimes, you know, we as the other side tend to miss those things. So I'm
not very observant.
I've been well trained for that one. So there it is, Ms. V with the new earrings, guys. Hit that like button. Let's go. Let's get that going. And hey, if everyone sends $1 super chat, then we'd have $4,000, and we would be able to buy Miss V those like I mean, what are fancy earrings? Did Gucci make earrings or something like that?
Well, at that point, you just slapping a gigantic diamond in your ear, right?
Yeah, just like one big ass diamond. But or don't put that one on your forehead. Someone will rip it off. Like, I don't know, who is that? Gucci Mane or something?
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
I don't know. Okay, we are supposed to be talking about stocks, so let's do that. The man that's always nothing but business, Brendan.
Yeah,
let's
one
start.
just popped off.
There we go. Thank you, Chris. It has already started. The $1 have come in here, so let's see what happens here today. But Brendan, please get us back on track.
I will do my best. Sean, just watching a couple people mentioning this LIXT. Big move up 120%, in fact. On heavy volume, watch three right above us here. Comes back to these levels for LIXT. There was a cancer-related release there that came out at 8:30, so heads up on that one, picking up in volume as we speak. So we'll keep an eye on LIXT. Arun is on his way. We'll get to Arun in a second here. Maybe we can jump into what else is moving around in the pre-market, guys. That's the link to the watch list. We go over it every day at this time. We'll talk about what's moving around in the pre-market and why. Come up with a game plan for 30 minutes, exactly 30 minutes from now when the market opens. Beyond Meat, the big news story this morning, KFC launching, I guess it's fried Beyond Meat version of their product for the remainder. I guess it says a limited time, starting January 10th for a limited time in the U.S. If this goes well, though, I mean, one analyst I saw said as much as 10% of annual revenue could come from this if it's picked up.
Yeah, that's not a small number. Obviously, look, KFC is a pretty big deal when it comes to selling chicken and meat products. And look, that's a big deal for Beyond Meat. Keep things in perspective, because at one point it was up 10%, and even when it was up that 10% pre-market, you were still in the same cluster of a range here on the daily chart for Beyond Meat. So, I'm sort of with the author of the Black Swan, Nassim Taleb, believing in the minority theory, which is basically eventually at some point you think that the plant-based or I guess laboratory-grown meat is going to taste the same, cost the same, and be about the same nutrition. And once that happens, it'll be a heck of a lot easier for everybody to be doing the same thing than necessarily sort of staying with regular meat. So I think that's down the line, but possibly way in the future. So I think you're still betting on a high valuation name, which at the end of the day is going to be under pressure this year like everybody else. So my first thought was, okay, we could have that 930 rollover, sell the new 68 to 69 off of this high, and then you're looking at the 70 to 75. And that was the first thing I thought when I sat down. I wasn't thinking a breakdown trade, or I'd be short the 67 as we speak. The more it falls down here, I got to start thinking about, well, I mean, on the good news, it's still a game changer for them. It could find support at 64. So I've gone from wanting to short the pop, because we're now so far away from that resistance level, that I got to think about if it can base out 63 or 64, one of those lows. Maybe that's where the actionable trade is going to be. So I do think this matters for them. I still think they have a long, long way to go. And this could be a tough year for names like this, even when they have positive catalysts. So, I sort of tread lightly. I don't think we have to rush in, always trying to figure to have the bottom in something like a Beyond Meat. There's lots of competition out there for them. I'm not sure how plant-based versus laboratory-grown is even going to play out in general. I think that's going to take years before we figure out a winner.
Yeah, I don't know, but you know what? I kind of feel like this is a new thing for them. Like fried chicken. I mean, shout out to Trader Pratt. I mean, we all know about Super Chicken and whatnot. I just think this could be a game changer. This could be something that sticks. They've tried, the beef patties and the pork, and you've got a few different things here in Canada at our Tim Hortons as kind of like test response. I thought McDonald's was going to be doing something with like a PLT type of thing, but I just feel like this is another chance for Beyond Meat just to get going again and to like have another revenue stream. Like you mentioned there, possibly 10%. KFC's monstrous. They're big in Asia, and this is just another opportunity for them to get another product out in the marketplace. They'll see if it works, it goes through. But I wrote down also here on the sticky note today that basically it's great news with KFC, 10% of revenue, the same thing that we talked about today, $68.50. I'd rather take out the top there, but I did want everyone to notice that there's also a 70 level. I mean, I have to zoom back in a little bit here. We've bounced around 69, and it's just upside here, 70. Like, we were just here a few days ago, right, at this top. And you can see we've topped out here at 70. You're starting to pull back in right now. So I think this is going to be a show me deal right now. No point in paying up 10% for this would be my guess, is what people are thinking. Why pay up for it? Let's show us the fact that this is going to be a profitable business. This is going to be a profitable, new product release. And I think if they could do that, then that's fantastic. But I think it's like put up or shut up right now for them. We'll see if we can play some kind of dips, but that's what we basically had here. Watch the 70 top. I think I'd like to short that. I was thinking taking a 68.50 break if we held up here, but the market has spoken and it looks like we're making a move to the downside. I'm looking maybe at 66.50 right now. We also have on the sticky note today over 19 retweets. Yesterday we had 50. If you can, guys, go over here. The more people that look at this again, the more attention brought to some of these names. GM, we like a 66 short on there. We'll get to Palantir, but more news with Hyundai there. We'll continue the long. What a great trade that was yesterday. Banks and DraftKings all on the sticky note. So if you guys wanted to get a little bit more, just what I've been doing anyways, you can have a look there. And there goes Longeveron again, guys. We just took another 30-cent win. Long. We reloaded down here. We first were short, and then we got out when it broke 14. So we took a 25-cent hit or something. No, 20-cent hit on that one. And then we just went long. We took a long there, averaged in, and now it's starting to go back up to the upside. So we've just taken a little bit off there. I'm not...
Before we go to Arun, because I mean, we always get this if we're in opposing positions, right? Like, I always like this gap up, consolidate lower, and then play off of that level. So, I'm just working off of that. You can, when you're inside of a range, it's perfectly viable in a stock that you know is going to be volatile to like it one direction or another. Like, certainly if it breaks, it has a chance to go to 15, and that's why I want to have my stock just above that 35. And if it breaks to the downside, I actually will hold more than half the position if it breaks 13. Like right now, I'm getting it less than half down to 13 even, despite having a 1380. Like I think if it goes down, we're breaking 13 even. And I think if we're going up, we're testing 15, which means tight stop. Well, I mean, it seems relatively tight, but it's not really that tight of a stop on the short. And then you can play it in both ways. If you're inside the range, you could scalp it. It could break out in either direction. This is day trading, right? It's not that uncommon. I know it doesn't happen every day, but it's not that uncommon for us to be in opposing positions in the same stock. It definitely means it's a stock worth watching. Well, that's for darn sure. Another thing, darn.
We are going to go to. There was one thing else I want to talk about. Someone just said. Oh, they're mentioning to you, Neil's in Pfizer. You can see our trades on the bottom there. What I want to do is just give a thank you here. Thank you to William Craig. Again, thank you so much. You've been sending us super chats pretty much every day. So thank you so much for that. And I think that was about that Valeria talk and things like that. And so thank you for that. And then Manu, welcome to the jungle, man. Thank you for becoming a member. We have about 2,000 members or so here at Trader TV Live for $5 a month. Thank you for supporting us. So that's been very good and very helpful to us. So thank you to everybody, William Craig especially. Thank you one more time for that super chat.
All right, as promised, Arun has joined us to have a look at the overall market. Once again, Arun, we did try to test positive there, but I mean, everything kind of on hold, I guess, until we get these Fed minutes today.
Yeah, and the market, it's playing around this 4,800. It's been playing around with it since last week. We had a chance to kind of get going yesterday. I mentioned off the top that if we could take out yesterday's highs and get going, we kind of got there. One tick is not much of a take, but it looks like 48.10 is going to be that level now. Given what kind of action we're getting around that 48.05, it's going to have to be 48.10 to kind of get above. And given and this is the other thing too, given the amount of selling that was there yesterday around that 48.05, anytime we went up, there was a bunch of selling coming back down. So I would wait to see how we trade above 48.10. Can we get above there? Can we trade well? I say this often. What I mean by trade well is, can we get above there and then absorb any selling that comes through? At that point, you could say, you know what, buying strong enough, let's go for the long, right? So 48.10 is going to be up top. That's a level I'm looking at. But at the same time, you got to leave the door open for potential shorts here. Anytime you enter the 47.85 area, we're not too far away. We're 5 points away. Anything past that, if there's a nice little setup on the short side, you have to respect that 4,800 going up to 48.10. So open up the shorts as well. If the setup is there, you put up the 25-point risk. You take the shot against the 48.10, see if the market can actually go down, because there is a ton of space to the downside. We do have that 47.30 is when we start finding support, and the actuals of, I guess, the bottom of that support zone would be 46.90. So there's a 40-point range through the bottom where you can find some support in. So if you take a short of the 85s, there's a decent amount of space to the downside. So I would just kind of leave the door open for some shorts, but be careful on how you trade. It does look like yesterday there was a massive divergence in tech versus the S&P. It looks like we're starting to see tech weaker today as well. You might see a flip though. You might see some, I guess, more tech strength today in the event the market were to reverse course, right? So tech is always going to be the more volatile of the two markets. And if that decides to kind of get going, well, that's going to move much faster than the S&P, and then S&P will get dragged up by the tech names as well. So just be aware of that relationship between the two markets and their components. So 48.10 up top and 46.90 down below. And here we are sitting not too far away from potentially a short if the setup is there.
Great stuff. Thanks, Arun. We'll check back in again tomorrow morning. Nicola, guys, the next one on the list this morning. Here's this headline. USA Truck Incorporated buying 10 additional BEVs, which is that from Nicola. So we talked a little bit about over the past couple of weeks the initial delivery of one of those. So they get an order for 10 more here for Nicola, guys. So more positivity anyways for this company.
10's more than one. I guess that's what. I don't know.
10 times more, I think.
that math is 100% right. Shouldn't be always joking about these things, but it's all in perspective. Like Nicola up 4% is just, it'll look more impressive on the 1 minute chart. And it's gonna feel like a fade at some point. I know this is gonna be like a broken record for some of these, I kind of feel. We've already broken through what would probably have been the first trade that I would have had. Had it been at 1060, 1070 at 930, then for sure I would be playing off of that level for a roll. Now I kind of have to sit this one out. It's either $11 or $11.50. I just can't. I'm not going to be a buyer up here. On a day where the run you had yesterday in Ford, and then GM went up, in part because yes, they're doing their release, but dragged up as well. And then you have, what Tesla did on the reversal, going down, being so weak. I just see all the reason in the world that there'll be some profit taking in something like a Nicola if it gets too big of a bump here. So, count me out for looking for this to the long side. It's past level I would have already shorted it at the open. I'm going to have to look back to 11 to 11.20 and then maybe sit this one out at least for the short term. But I'm not going to be a buyer on this. The volume is actually pretty good, so it does deserve to be here on the watch list. It's over 1 million shares. That's actually really good. And you were right. You guys mentioned Pfizer, and I didn't show it to you. Although we did talk about it a little bit. I did scalp a little bit out the second pop here when it got to 55.80. There was a seller there. I'm back on the bid. I want to be getting the bid and then buying back in before the open. I think this is one where I'll be buying the dips, and I want to see if we can fill in that gap to 56 and a quarter.
Just looking at the chat here. So, look, Nicola's on the watch list today. The last time something like this happened, we just absolutely took off to the upside like mad. So we'll see if that can happen again today. I don't know. I mean, again, EV space in this environment, it's not great. You're buying EV right now, for the potential, what's to come. And, if they can get more deals here, Nicola seems like it wants to work out. So, if that's going to be the case, we were long down here and sort of getting talked about there when we were long, and we were long because of 9. And right now you're getting some decent news in. I like Nicola. I think that there is a potential for it to go up today. But at the same time, if you get anywhere near 12, I think that's an instant fade because you've been up here before. But at the same time, I do have a bid back down here near 1020. Let's see if it gets back into yesterday's area. And then we have this bottom of 960. This can't be bad news, can it? So we'll wait to see. I mean, this is one where it seems like it's good news. It's another deal. If Nicola falls back anywhere near 10, we want to take the long. We've talked about that 960, 980, something like that back in here would be our stop. So I don't know if we even need to put a stop in. I don't think this will be a very heavy trade today. But again, if we come back into $10, I think you got to buy that. They are selling it off a little bit. There's that 1085 that we talked about that's on the sticky note. It was 68.50 for the other name there on Beyond Me. But 1085, we did talk about it on the sticky note to take the pre-market eye. So that's going to be that level. Let's see if the momentum can come through here on Nicola today. But up 3.5%, decent. But I don't know, man. I know, Neil, you said the volume's pretty good. It's okay.
Million's okay.
Million's okay, but I think it's been doing a lot more on days when there's some moves. So I think that today is a very dangerous day. Like, I'm not overly confident about the direction of the market today. Yesterday, the NASDAQ got crushed, and that makes me just think that some of these overvalued names may get hit again today. Obviously, there's a change here. We've talked about XLF, possibly have been bought the last couple of days. You should have been in some banks. We talked about that. Banks have been working. You see XLF yesterday, a nice move to the upside. We could talk all about Deere, Caterpillar, the steel names, the industrial PE, definitely working as well as we go. And then names, since we're here on AM, so it won't go up the chart, names like ARC and whatnot have been getting hit, right? So sort of the new businesses getting hit right now, and ARC is one of those. So, hey, until this starts to get going back to the upside and the NASDAQ really starts to go, I'm very nervous about names like Nikola, even Fisker, SoFi, things like that just don't have the earnings, right? Affirm is a completely different beast. I think Affirm can get going, but again, I just feel that this buy now, pay never stuff is
But that's like credit cards, though. Remember,
I know, but credit cards have so much more business than Affirm.
It also, but it's like the beginning of credit cards. You got to remember, it was only one of the three major reporting credit agencies that they were giving data to, right? Now it's going to be two of the major three. So when you don't pay, it's going to affect your credit, and that's the reality. So they're in that growth stage, and again, that's going to be under some pressure. I think it's overblown, some of those concerns, because everybody knew that was going to. It's always an issue when you're giving out credit that people might not pay it back, but at the end of the day, they do a credit check, and then it prevents you from being able to purchase in the future if you don't make your payments. So they do have, there are things along the lines.
It's just a lower bar, that's all. When you're doing this buy now, pay later, basically anybody can get approved. Yeah. It's a little bit different than credit cards from what I've been reading.
Yeah, 100%. There is risk involved, but I think all of those are understood. And if it's not understood, then I'm not sure where we've been for the last year on this. But I don't think it's going anywhere. I just think in this environment this year, you have the rate hikes and you have valuations being a concern and wanting to see profitable companies. And that makes it a difficult year for them in general. And that goes with, I think, a lot of fintech. But by the way, I just want to quickly, this MYNZ, I think it's like a 2 million float that Brendan mentioned. It's starting to come off pretty heavily here, but this 1750 to 18 level was support really, really early around 7 o'clock. So if it can hold that up, it might have another run in it. If there's something that would halt today, this would be near the top of the list.
Hard to borrow on that one as well. I just checked again, 60 cents per share to short that today. Let's go to Ford and GM. We'll group them together because, the news is essentially the same. Huge move for Ford yesterday on the F-150 Lightning production increase, doubling in fact. General Motors, as we said, taking the stage today at CES with the Chevy Silverado finally being debuted, guys.
We talked a little bit about GM. I think that they had their run yesterday with Ford as well. They're not on my list to buy today. I actually like a short here into 66. It's just been on top. It could take it out. There's no doubt about that. So we'll hold it a little bit here. But again, yesterday high of 66. I'm actually sitting on the offer right now, almost getting filled here. 66.8, 65. 65.80, right? Yeah, 65.80 there. And I just think that yesterday we had a nice move up. Here's 66. We touched it, fell back down. This is probably a sell the news event. And so we'll wait to see. It's just one of those things where we bought it yesterday, right? Buy the rumor. It's not even a rumor, but everyone knew they're going to be at CES. Ford comes out yesterday, knocks it out of the park. Obviously, GM on the coattails all the way to the upside. Both names working. Their GM was overtaken yesterday by Toyota for the most sales in the U.S. I don't know if that really matters. But anyways, I'm just trying to fade this off. Here's 65.80 right in here. So we'll take a short. If it takes it out, man, it's 20 cents. I'm going to make sure I have I do. So it's going to be a 20-cent hit. We have it crossed up to 66.10. The only problem is, you get this short early and then, just in the opening, chaos. Yesterday there wasn't any chaos in the open, so maybe it will be okay today. But sometimes you do get wicked out or wicked into a trade here right off the open. So I am very, very weary of that. We could go short here, get taken out as it bumps higher. And then if it comes back through, I want to keep my eyes on GM because that's one that I want to short when we break back down through 66 if we do take it out. So that's sort of what I'm looking at here on GM. And then before I throw over to you, Neil, let's just have a quick look here. So AT&T on a buy right now. They had some news yesterday. about gaming. And again, AT&T probably a decent value play down here, but I don't really like the stock, but whatever, it's working right now. So Pfizer as well on a buy. Citigroup, I mean, the banks just keep getting stronger and stronger. You can see Citigroup today up another 1%. Uber on the sell. Uber might be another name to sell, but again, I like that for the reopen. And then NEO looking at 28. I don't want to be interested in NEO until we get down to 28 bucks.
Yeah, I mean, look, I tried twice in the afternoon show on General Motors, thinking that it should have been a reversal up there. So I'm not going to really change that, although it is setting up for that particular trade, you know, like the whole pop and drop kind of idea. So I do usually want the stock to open up first and then test the high, either fail, break it, or roll over before getting into the short. So I'm gonna sit it out until 9:30, but my intention is to play it just like in the afternoon. That 66, obviously it's a new high, but it didn't break it by much. It was like 65.25 yesterday, and now we're looking at 66 today. I will be watching it very closely because I want to see if they come out and the bottom end of the range on the Silverado is higher or the same as the top end range on the F-150. That might be received pretty well. Currently, they're saying the high end's 400, but you know, obviously that's going to be for the most expensive model, the base model. I'm interested to see what kind of range it does have. 10 minutes to go. Pfizer breaking the top. If it gets to 56, I'll cover some more. Still want to buy the dip on that.
All right, let's go to Palantir. A lot of people talking about Palantir still all the way back here to where we were yesterday at the end of the day. After, I mean, a nice move initially up to 18.5 on this South Korea news. Hyundai Heavy Industries Group, they're going to team up with in South Korea to do some software work for in offshore engineering and shipbuilding. So nice move initially, but I mean, not much volume took this thing up there to 18.5.
Remember when I came in, Brandon, I said, oh no, not another good deal for Palantir. It's horrible. Because every time they get a deal, they seem to go to the downside. So, yeah, I mean, Hyundai going to partner with them, possibly more expansion here. This is just the tip of the iceberg. I love data, and they're trying to make businesses more efficient, and the businesses are lining up to sign up with them, right? It's about the consumer business, though. You know, they do have a lot of contracts, military, and now, you know, into commercial as well. They need to sort of try to figure out maybe how to bring this back down to the consumer level. But again, we are long already right now, Palantir. We take that dip, it goes into the money for what are we long? 10s, 11s. It does go up to 18s or 19s for us there. We don't take any out at that level. We'll see if it wants to keep on going to the upside. It's a sell a little bit on any pops. We've talked about that. I'm not confident in Palantir. Again, it's not the right stock for, I'm confident in the long term, but it's not the right stock for this environment. It's come down a lot over the last little while, and you know, the only thing about it is, when I talk about it's coming down, like this is why, this goes back to December, like we're almost a month here. This is like a month worth of trading on Palantir. It keeps getting down here to 1780 and then pops right off those levels. So we'll keep playing that until it doesn't. Obviously, our breaking spot's going to be like 1775, something like that on the downside. So we'll average into this Palantir trade. I like it today. Again, we did have, guys, those of you, it's too bad we can't see this yesterday, but we were buying pretty much all of these dips and then just getting out on every single pop. And then the last one was the best because look what it did here into the close. So we were long down here at 1780 and it popped all the way to 1820, giving us 40 cents worth of a win off the open yesterday. So Palantir continuing to make some nice moves. We'll see what happens here, but again, you got to respect the 1780 bottom. And until then, we'll just wait to see what happens with PLTR. But we're long this name, going to get out on pops, and hopefully it continues to pop through to 1840, 1850, like you said, Brendan. Pull back here today. So, hey, if it's a good news, they'll like it and they'll take it higher. If not, we will test the 1780 again, and we are waiting down here to get longer.
Longeveron, an interesting look this morning. LGVN. I mean, we're back to the downside a little bit here, but coming off the highs. If you remember yesterday, we were talking about that HOTH, HOTH, was higher after some Alzheimer's-related news. This is the same thing, essentially. So they came out with some data regarding their treatment, and still in the works. But I mean, it's failed a couple of times here at 14. So trying to come off from 14 back through to 13.5. I mean, everybody knows this story. There is a short interest on this, so I think we do have to be a little bit careful with LGBN.
Have a stop. Like anytime I can go to the 15 of the daily and have like a spike level to work off of that it's already failed at. This is the 15 minute. You can see on the 28th, it failed at the same price, 15 and change. So it did the same thing here this morning. And if you missed that trade, you always look. I'm always looking for the lower consolidation. Happens to be right around the peak from the 30th, right around that 14 range. So I'm short in front of the 14. Give it about an extra quarter to 30 cents or so of slippage. The first leg I actually just started getting out in front of 50s here, and then I'll work some of it out in front of 13. The bottom end, I think your best bet is 12 to 12.50 would be the ultimate target for the second half of the position. So, already in it, got a plan of action that we're working with. Like I said, that MYNZ is going to move like gangbusters. I'm not going to likely have a trade on that until after it opens up. If it looks like it's going to halt up on MYNZ, I might try to take that halt. But for now, it's looking weak.
Yeah, we've been getting in and out of the long Chevron. We have a small position right now. If it breaks through 13.50, then obviously we're not going to hold this. But really a nothing burger here. Just holding to see if we do take out the top. Our last couple outs were at the 20s here through 14. So that would have been a great spot to reload the short. But, it could take, it could go back up to $15. This is just one of those like hope and pray names. Excuse me. The market's going to open up, and then we'll just see volume weighted average price at 14. But this is a name that has run before. There's a few today that have this possibility. So, like Neil just mentioned, we do have a bottom of 11.20. If long Chevron gets into there, then I think you can load it up with some confidence that there's at least an 11 bottom. See here, it goes right back upside. So, like now we're in the money 10 cents. It's just like bouncing around here. So I don't really have too much faith in this, other than when it opens, maybe we do get that spike back up to 14. So that's something that we're looking at. Here we go. Now it's starting to go, but we'll wait to see here. As long Chevron bouncing out, only 4 minutes to go. Brendan, what are you looking at over there?
Same as Neil. That's MYNZ. 2 million float. This is a recent IPO, so you got to go back to, the actual IPO filing, because I can't find the float anywhere. But there was 2 million shares offered on the IPO back in November. So 18 was that spike high on that day. We're bouncing along 18 right now, in fact. So same as what Neil was saying. Below 18 probably gives you a nice move back into 14, 15 area was a consolidation on the way up here. But above that, sky's the limit, guys, for MYNZ.
Yeah, look, I actually did short, I did short this at 20 early on for a small position and took some out at 19 just to scalp it, and then thought better of getting in at the high and just got out, thank goodness got out of it. But this one looking pretty crazy. It's held support at that 17, I think it's big. SENS, Sens is another one I want to quickly get to because I love the range that this has put in. Look at the 50 and the 200 period moving average, and covered up by that range is literally the pre-market range here. So 3 at the bottom and change, 320 at the top. So I'm shorting pops in this. I'll reverse at 320, and then if you get the short, I'm waiting for it to break 3 and then fill the gap to the downside. I love those tight clusters because they give you such a much more structured trade. SENS is another example of that.
So we just say that because we got a piece out there. It just went back up to 14, this long Jeverod. So we're going to hold, like right now we just have 20%. So we're going to hold this to see if we can go upside and make a winner out of this trade up to 15. If it breaks the high, I just want to be into something in case this does get going, and long Jeveron is the one to watch. So we're going to wait for this one. If it takes out some of these highs, maybe we'll punch our ticket again, but it's already been up here. So I think I'm pretty confident. We'll hold this 80s. It's 20 cents in the money. We just took 18 cents. They're out at 98. So now we'll wait to see where it goes through 14 or not. But that's that. Thank you so much, Jagerbomb. Again, I know we've seen you lots of times here. Spent the entire December back testing. Hey, this is what it's all about right here. So Jagerbomb, thank you so much for saying that. That's what it's all about, man. You want to back test. You want to make sure that the strategies you're doing have worked for you in the past, and that they can have the potential to work again. You can't just strategies can't be just like take all of these names long, take all of these names shorter.
LGVN.
You have to back test. Everything is promised full time in February. This is another big point here. I will succeed. So good. That's positive. Here we go. Let's go, long Jeveron. But it's positive talks. It's all this stuff. AMD short fest. Yeah, we talked about. Okay, so now long Jeveron's starting to get going a little bit here. Obviously, now we don't wish we got out at VWAP, but starting to go to the upside. That's another name. 2 minutes to go. But again, just a structured trade. Neil and I have sort of broke this one down, so we don't need to talk too much about it. Why did someone say AMD? Yeah, because the Nasdaq's starting to go back down here. AMD not moving, but again, you have that 140 bid here. that's hit a couple times over the last little while here. Down here, 140 there, 140 yesterday. So watch out for that. I mean, it only got to 140.50 or so yesterday. But you can watch out for that level on a move down. It's still a little ways away, but don't kid yourself, man. This thing can go $3 to the downside. Yesterday it went 10. So we'll watch out for AMD today. Tesla, we haven't talked about that yet, Neil. Where is that? 11.50. Yeah. So yesterday we dumped down $50. Today, I don't think it's going to be a rip or tank kind of day here. If anything, I'm more worried about the downside. So I think that the risk more is to the long than to the short. But right now, bouncing around this 11.25 could be interesting if it does get that.
There's also, with 1 minute to go, there's this Wejo. I don't know how to pronounce the company name, but they're presenting at CES here today, actually at the Microsoft Pavilion, I do believe, because they got a partnership with them. Their news is actually pretty solid, but again, when you get a sell-off like this in the pre-market, I'm usually going to think it's profit-taking. And the daily chart, whoops, I went the wrong way here. The daily chart is going to tell you a story of it trying to break back out here at that $8 range and sort of failing to do so. So I'm looking very, very quickly at the open off that $8. I think below that price, it can be shorted. If it gets back above 8, has a chance to be a bit of a runner. But it's interesting that this sold off and never really found a bid just yet. I'm kind of hoping that I wouldn't get stopped out on Longeveron until the open. Now I'm going to have to get back into it, because if it does a failed break at this 14.25, then I'm jumping right back into the same thing. But WEJO, as I'm about to hit the countdown, if it pops to 8, that's another fader. And I wanted to look at Relly, but there's way too many small things moving around here today. That at $8.90 to $9 looks like a good resistance point. As we drop the bell for Miss B, 2 and 1, ring it.
Yeah, Ms. V is in the building. Thank you, Ms. V, for that one. Palantir down to 18. We'll see how low this one wants to go. Yeah, Longeveron, wow. Can't believe how high that one went out there. Neil talked about getting out, so he'll probably reload that. So we'll see what will happen with Longeveron right now. But Palantir dips to 18. We're waiting a little bit lower, man. We do have a starter position here at 18.10. We're going to wait to get a little bit lower than that if that one wants to go. So right now, Longeveron, we're looking to see what's up with that name as we go. So that's the name right now. Here comes Palantir getting ready to get reloaded up.
Yeah, and I wanted to wait for GM to open up as well to see if it would try spike. It actually did. It spiked up to 65.75, and you're going to see it actually fail there. So now it's going to be a short. I wanted to make sure it didn't break the top at the open. Once it doesn't do that, I'm going to start into this one. I did reload Longeveron. I kind of said this might be the case. A lot of times I always stick to my stop in that time frame, but if it does the failed break like it did here, it didn't get past that 14.25, then I'm just going to start 14.50, then I'm just going to jump back into this one. The NASDAQ, I mean, like you just said, it's heading back towards the bottom already. We'll check in on Beyond Meat, but that was already falling too far.
Come on, Palantir. As if Palantir, the bottom. I'm at 95. The bottom's 96. Like, we'll just continue to wait, but that always seems to happen to me, man. But that is what it is.
Oh yeah, Sens broke.
So we'll wait to see on that one. Sens broke to the upside. We saw what?
No, down.
Oh, down.
Sens broke down. So it broke that $3 range. So we talked about that 50 period in the 200 cluster and filling in the gap. Well, I shorted it in the middle and then shorted the break as well. So I actually ended up with a price. I didn't get enough shares. You can see I wanted more shares at 10 and 12. So the majority of my entry is actually when the 3 broke instead of up at that 307. But Sens trying to fill in the gap as well.
Okay, so we're going to split up our orders now. One at 97 and then one at 93 to get the average price of 95. There it is. So we take the 97 bid here on Palantir. I was looking at DraftKings here. This was a name that we wanted to get short on. It hasn't happened up here. So we were talking about shorting this 27 level. It's right on our sticky note, but again, it didn't get close enough to it. I mean, it only went to 65 there. Look at the NASDAQ, man. We talked about the NASDAQ was going to be in trouble today. Again, it's right on the sticky note here. I hope you guys like it. Thank you. 30 retweets right now for this. But there goes Palantir. So again, we're going to wait here. We're going to see what it wants to do. But it looks like for now, Palantir coming right back down into the downside. This is right into the teeth that we thought we would see again here today. So we'll hold this long and see what we can do from here. But right now, why couldn't GM do this again?
LGVN.
GM finally tanked. That's another call that I had.
It hit 65.
Oh, okay. Well, again, 65.80, guys, was our short. It went to 75. and then drop down 75 cents. Oh, a little bit of a frustrating day here so far, but oh man, did we have this GM short or what? Darn it. But let's see if it can retrace back upside. But we were a little bit too, like we missed the short by 5 cents. So let's see if we can reload it up here as it's starting to come back a little bit.
Yeah, I just took some out in front of 65. I'm reloading on pops. I want to make sure we get back into this one. When it's that rollover trade, I like to reload almost every chance that I get. Longeveron, I'm going to go 0 for 2. So I'm going to stop with that one. I got to get over to Pfizer because it did make the breakout. I never got the dip buy. I'm sitting on the bid 55.50. It got to 55.60. Now breaking through 56. So I'm gonna take shares out at the 56 quarter because that's the gap fill that I was looking for. You can see that here, but I still want to maintain buying the dips overall in Pfizer. Like that's worked. I just missed it by about 10 cents or so. I'll maybe get the truck back going to like 55.80, maybe 56 even as it comes back in. Sens, that's starting to actually fall apart here. On the 15-minute chart, it looks a lot more extreme than on the 1 minute. But yeah, it's now down at 290. My next bid's down at 285. If it goes to 270, that will be giving everything back. I think that's a distinct possibility. And then that Weejo that we just right at the end we're talking about, it does a small pop into 730. I like 775 in front of that $8 level. Doesn't look like this one's going to get there.
Yeah, and yes, sir, we're going to go, oh my God, look at Longeveron. I know Neil tried that again. We're going to see if it takes out this 15, but we've already been up there. So maybe 14.80 or so on LGVN here to get out. This is a nice 70-cent winner right here for us. So, we talked about being in opposite positions there, and some days it works for one of us, and other days it works for the other one. So today on Longeveron, it looks like I will temporarily be the winner. Who knows what's to come? The day is 4 minutes old right now. So let's just not, like Neil says, count our chickens here before they hatch on Longeveron.
Yeah, there goes XO1.
We're starting to go again XO1 to the upside. Probably.
Forgot about that break. It was at that high. Now, got brought to the attention that you were breaking out on the daily there, but did miss out on this one, unfortunately. So I'm going to kick myself because we talked about getting into energy and playing it some more, and then we didn't pull it up. So there's a lot of things moving, a lot of things to watch, and obviously that's going to lead to some distraction here. But if you got that, congratulations. I just saw someone talking about U.S. Steel, that looking pretty good. Here's the dip coming in Pfizer as the market is, the market's starting to really flush. I mean, I just got filled at 55.90 here on Pfizer, or 93s on the dip just in front of VWAP. So the break is going to end up working out. I took the break way back at 55.60, already profitable on it, but that's the only thing I really like to the long that I can find that isn't energy missed out already. U.S. Steel missed out already.
Yep. Oh, yeah. I was just looking here at Palantir. It's coming back in. We do have the average price of 18 flat here. So let's see if this one wants to go. It's just resisted the bottom one more time. So, hey, always better ideas to get in down here. But again, I say that this is going to be my New Year's resolution here to be a little more patient with these trades. And so I just should not have taken that one. I'm fine with all of these in the 90s. Let's see if it wants to work its way back up now. So hopefully this can get going and Palantir will take us out. Again, even around VWAP is 18.10, something like that, just to start the day. Let's just start our typical trading happening here on Palantir. And again, if it breaks below 80s, then you really got to start getting aggressive with some of your outs because that has been said bottom. So we'll see if Palantir wants to go right now. Did GM get back up?
This. Well, GM, it's getting close. I'm actually going to try to reload it soon. But Pfizer, we did get the reload. It just got some out in front of that high again. It's that 56.25 to 30 area that was the gap fill that I want to make sure I'm grabbing some profit.
FBP.
But General Motors, if it comes anywhere close to that top again, it's the pop and fade. It looks like, right now it's at 35s. I'm sitting at 45s. I might step in a little bit earlier. I got 42s last time. Brendan's got to move.
Big mover, guys. Alibaba back at it again after the Charlie Munger news yesterday. Just took out that high from late in the day, 120.80, 121. Big volume here for Baba again.
Mr. Baba. So we'll do a little bit here because we'll just go, wow, like Palantir doing the same thing it always does. And again, this time we're going to try to hold. It came right back up to VWAP. This is a good trade for me. We're long 99. We were long O's, so it's only a 5-cent win now, which is crazy. But again, Palantir, you got to up your share size a little bit here and just understand what kind of trade you're doing. And we talk about that all the time on the show. So let's just move on from that. But that's what I'm doing on Palantir. The next out is about 8s or 10s, something like that. And then we'll see if it can moon from there. I don't know, though. Palantir's not mooning at all these days. But AMD, woo, what? Oh, God, again, goes right down to yesterday's low. Wow. man, that got cracked off that low NASDAQ. 140.67, today's low 140.70. So that was an amazing opportunity to buy AMD down there, and then you just get a nice little dollar bump right there. So hopefully some of you did that, not like me, I did not, but that would have been a great opportunity to buy that bottom. Normally I'm sitting right there, man, and unfortunately we miss it. Looking at, again, we just have an upsized position here on Palantir, so that's why we're sort of watching that name a little closer. But AMD ripping faces off, BABA ripping faces off as well.
There's a halt here on this DTST. It wasn't on the radar, but thank you guys for putting this one out. It's indicating 454 as the open price. You did halt almost immediately here at 932, so I guess it's going to be a 10-minute halt, 942. It'll open back up. If you just quickly look at the daily chart, there is a level up here at about like 450 to 480. I think if it fails at that price, well, maybe it halts a second time and fails around that price, it could get pretty interesting for me to want to take a trade. General Motors, like, it's ridiculous. Like I said, I should have gotten more aggressive on the offer and then didn't until it was too late. I was sitting at 42 and 49. Cancel those, but who cares? I'm not going to get them. And then got more aggressive at 35, tried to chase it to 30, and now it's falling like an absolute rock. So, I guess it's going to come back in here. I got nothing on the reload, and of course I reload Sens instead. It tried to test back up to $3. That's at big level. It was a 50 period in the 200. I get 97s again here. And again, just going to scalp that one out back down towards 285, where I don't want to maintain the short position. So missed one, but got the other. Hopefully Sens can do some of what GM is doing.
And guys, like, I don't know. I wasn't really hearing anybody. I was going through Twitter. I didn't really hear too many people talking about the short here on GM today. But there it is right there, man. $66. We missed it by 5 cents on that short. And GM now 64.80. So there it is right there. We'll put the sticky note in. You guys can have a look at what we're talking about. We also said buy some dips in the bank. So check that out, guys. And please retweet this. 30 retweets today. Let's get that going a little bit. Just like hitting the like button. Hit the retweet button on that one. And we'll get going. And there's Palantir. Yes, sir. Finally, let's go, Palantir. Let's take some more out here as we're going up to the upside here. 14s, 15s, 16s, starting to blow upside. I told you we were oversized this position today here, and now we've taken out only a third of the trade as we keep going. Yes, sir. Another out there at 20. Palantir for the win, guys. A big trade for me today, so let's go. We already brought Miss V on the screen. We could do another like count. Please hit that like, as right now Palantir is on one. Let's keep on going to the upside. 22s, 23s. This is a big trade for me, guys. So here it is, Palantir. Hopefully you guys have that today. I don't know if it's going to be a good investment from here, but I do know it's a great long. We are long sub 18 now on PLTR. Let's go, buddy and Miss V.
Hey guys, I hope you're having a profitable and fun morning. If you just joined us, I remind you that we really need your support. Please smash the like button. We already have 1,600. This is great. Let's break all the records and get 3,000 today. We have 6,000 people watching. So we need your support and your like. Back to you guys.
Yeah, and here comes that Regio stock up to that $8 range. If it gets up there, I'm looking for the short trade. Monster volume spike, bigger than at the open. Anytime you see that, you've got to consider that it could extend that move a little bit. So it's twice the volume that it put in at the open, just happening now. Looking for about $7.75 for an entry. $8 is going to be the stop, and we should be open up in a matter of seconds on that DTNT that just came up.
And William, you and I both, my friend. There it is, man. William Craig hits his goal already. I asked you what you were trading earlier, William, and I think you maybe didn't see that, but let us know what it is. Yeah, no, I'm not trying to do the shimmy. If you want me to do the shimmy, I will. But right now, Palantir to the upside. A nice movement. Look at this. Let's go. Let's just go, Palantir. What a trade for this one, man. It just resisted, and sometimes they're easy, and sometimes they're not. This one, Palantir, just again off the bottom. Like, if you're watching the show, watch it for Palantir alone. We've been destroying this name over the last couple days. Look at this thing, just bouncing off these bottoms. Like, it doesn't get clearer than this on PLTR. Let's take out another piece here at 44, and there it is. One more out. Like, look at this. Boom, 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 boom. And we only got out of a third here, so now we're getting closer. We're now out of 2/3, but this is a 55-cent win now for us on Palantir. So again, on the sticky note, thanks for the love, guys. As crypto's starting to go back up, this is just go, 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 go. And just wish that we had the short on GM, but we don't. At least we called it. At least you guys hopefully were able to put some puts on or whatever. But shout out to you, William Craig. Thank you so much for that super chat. I would like to know what you're trading. Let me know there. put a dollar super chat or something in there, and we can highlight it. It's easier to see that as we're trading right now.
Yeah, I'm going to get another reload here in Pfizer's. It looks like it's making another bottom. It's been a pretty good scalp so far in that trade. I want to get attention to Uber, which is making that breakout on the daily. This is another name. It's like, give me a break. Like 2 days in a row, we're looking at that same level, and this is the day I don't have a stop order through that top break. Watch out, 200 period is going to sit here at 46.5. That does give it $1 worth of range to still continue to the upside. So I don't mind buying a dip here if it comes back into 45. So I'm going to park it on the bid. I think 44.50 is a reasonable enough out that we can always take that. But at this particular point, Uber, sorry, another one that's sort of getting away from us. I was looking. Oh, go, Brendan.
Guys from other Chinese names once again today. Here goes PDD up 3% for Pinduoduo. I'll flip over to JD.com, just trying to get back through pre-market highs here. Volume coming into JD as well.
Yeah, that DTST just reopened here. The volume's pretty solid on it, but it looks like it's trying to fade back in. It halted once and trying to take out a high at $5. It fails to do so. If it reclaims this bottom that I'm looking at 440 here, this could turn into one of those sort of shorted and favor the short for the rest of the day. It's not there yet, but getting close.
Oh, wow. Look at our new core today. Kaboom. Yes, this is why it pays to be diversified, because we're long Nucor, guys. Shout out to Austin if you're in the chat. I know that's something that you're in as well with me here. We bought Nucor $95, guys, and man, is that working out right here. We bought it on this dip here. We didn't have anything for the, well, we have, I mean, I'm long GE. I have a few other names. I mean, I'm long like 50 names. But again, you know, we bought some more Nucor. I didn't really have too much infrastructure play, and Nucor came right down as a gift, man, all the way back here. Every time it comes up here, though, Austin, and anybody else that's with me, I haven't sold. It's been up here before, and we didn't sell. So this might be a piece. Watch my Twitter. I'll post out if I'm selling anything later on. I can't do it during the show, but may start to sell some Nucor here later on, as this is an extended 5% move to the upside on this monster stock. I absolutely love it. We could check out what's happening with U.S. Steel, probably something probably up something similar. Yeah, 5% as well. So a better move today for steel names than the rest of the market. And then there's Nikola, man. We talked about trying to go long on the pre-market break, but again, we are too focused on, you know, Palantir, which turns out to be a monster for me. I could be done right now for today, but 1080 here was a good break. We talked about that 1085. You guys remember that? Take the pre-market high. It's right there. That should have been taken. And again, it's right here on the sticky note to talk about taking that pre-market high. So if you're on this, unfortunately, I can't take everything, but there it is. Watch for pre-market high break. That was 1085. So right now, it's 1118, guys. Please like, share this, and I'll keep doing it for you every single day. There's tons of on here. We'll have to look also at Beyond Meat soon, because I know that's making some moves.
Yeah, making some moves at DTST. Just put a run up to $5. Touched 97s and then put in a bit of a failure. If you know anything about sort of pop and drop, yeah, you go to an even dollar level like that. I just jumped in. I got myself like 83 as an average price. I'm going to start getting it in front of 450. And the reason why is that halt price has actually held up that halt bottom. And as long as it does that, even if it makes a failure at the top, it's still in a bit of a bullish pattern. So again, if you can structure a trade where you get it off of a level like that, when you're going, it's either a halt trade, violating or holding those levels, or you got a significant even dollar range. And to me, that's $5, and if it broke 5, it would be 6 or 750 or something along those lines. But it does make the failure at 5. If it's going to be a halt trade, you know I want to be involved in those ones. GM, I still have not reloaded any GM, which is kind of a bit of a pain in the butt. The Pfizer reload, now that I've gotten most out of DTS, to kind of move on from that. The Pfizer trade, we got a reload here at 55.70. This is where it held support at the pre-market. So at this point, now I'm starting to think about taking some out in front of 56. Good sign that it wants to hold this level, but if you consolidate and don't break back towards the high, then you've got that failed breakout setup at 56, right? So we don't get back above VWAP and 55, 65 gets taken out. To me, I'm sitting this out until it gets down to 55 even. So you don't want to turn a positive into a negative, especially when it's indicating it could be a false break.
Yeah. Okay. Just
SSNT
here as we continue to look at what's happening. We did get some more out on Palantir up here. It seems like it's struggling near 50. So right now we have emptied out. Maybe we'll take another piece out right here. 37. Yeah. So it's starting to fall back down. Look at the Nasdaq starting to give in right now. So again, the only trade I really missed was that GM short, but I'm glad that we talked about it. I don't mind shorting Twitter, DraftKings, names like that. So there's more happening here. Let's go to Reddit.
Social media stocks yesterday, Pinterest included, but just look at the pre-market high there for pins on volume, 3.5% back.
DTST.
That's a short. Yeah, I mean, it's on the list here that we do want to short some names like Pinterest or let's look at Twitter quickly here because that was another name that we had on our list to talk about shorting. But again, you know, it's actually it's not on the signal, but we did talk about some of that yesterday. And again, a company that's not making any money here or not making enough of it. I'll have to find out what their PE is before I say that. But again, you know, Twitter maybe back into this area. Obviously, we had a huge downgrade yesterday of the whole sector, so that was a big move down.
SSNT.
There's really nothing in here. Again, I don't know why this chart's not backloading. But on the day chart, yeah, I don't know. What is this level? 42. Yeah, so we're getting close to that right now. So this is probably a decent short to go through here now. We bounced off the top a little bit. I think this is worth it. Let's short Twitter. But at the same time, like we're long Palantir. If the market continues to bump up, Twitter probably goes with it. And we just got another piece out of Palantir there as it does dip back or rip back up there. We get a 39 or whatever, right there, 38 still on that move back up. So we're almost out of this trade, but so far so good on Palantir. And actually, I don't mind loading up a little bit here on Twitter. The only problem is if the market does rip, this will be a loser. So we got to understand that sort of just stages here on what is strength today for Twitter. So I'm going to go short now, see if that can work. We do have that upside target.
We talked about CLS late in the day yesterday. If you joined us in the afternoon, had a nice day up to 2280. Here we go again, 6% today for Cliff, guys.
Yeah, that's another one with Cliffs, FCX. Like diversification matters. I mean, even the consumer durables, I think, are going to be a good play this year. Pins, look, the reason I can say this about pins, and I understand there's some reasons why you might like to take this one up at the bottom. We're talking about a day trade, and I know it's right getting close to this 35 level, which was a nice little shelf for it before. I guess floor for the shelf. What doesn't really matter? Floor for it before. And looking at this, if it tries to fill in the gap, that's like a breakout and then potential rollover. After the big move we had yesterday, it was floodgates when 35 broke. So if it gets up to 35, I'm looking for that for a rollover trade. That's all it is. Again, it's just trying to structure a trade and looking for that kind of a regard. I'm still in this sense, which has been resisting. It's resisting coming back to that $3 range, right? So there were two trades here, one sitting in it, and then getting that sort of in front of the $3 level. If it doesn't roll over this time, then suddenly you're holding a higher low and breaking back above 3, in which case I would just cover it. I got 97s as the entry price now. I'm still sitting on the bid all the way down to this 85 to 95 range. But either way, I'm looking for cents now to see if it'll give me the rollover pretty soon. Otherwise, I'm going to put the stop tighter into $3.
All right, so new trade alert here. We do have, Sen's a good name for sure. We do have this coming in. So Twitter, we are short. We were just short 72 there. It just ticked down to 60. The bottom wick was 61. We're going to wait to see if we can get something like 40 flat, something like that in here. And again, I try to, you know, and we're trying to do this and explain like all of the trades to you guys here. So what I'm trying to do is basically get this back to where this move started. So if we can get back in here to 41.40 or so as a first target, and then we'll work with if it wants to tank all the way back down in. So again, looking at a few different names here, that's going to be one of them. Twitter, we are short, and I want to average in, and then the out's going to be just north of 42. I mean, if we can take out that 42, then that's what that is right here, $42. So we'll play off that. Yeah, your global foundries, Neil, you talked about.
Intel's crushing it today, and global foundries is down 3.5%. Look, I get it. A lot of the run yesterday had to do with the Ford partnership, but really the Nasdaq's going to start bouncing here, and GFS is not going to want to go. I might be burning myself, but look, I'm looking at last week's support down at $63. It's a pretty thinly traded stock, only 200,000 shares, but for me, it's going to be hard not to try to take this in front of 63 as the market's coming back up and Intel's running. I don't really get that. I understand that it's sold after the Ford euphoria died down, but to continue selling off here today is a little bit surprising given what the market's doing.
Yeah, and that was another name that we talked about, man, was Intel this morning. We went over to Intel and we said that, it's been a dead stock for a couple of years, and then now today, and it's a good stock, man. Like, it's an older name. They released new chips yesterday, up that 4.5%. It's been beat down. It's in the right sector here. Obviously, it has a lot of work to do before you get back to where it was 6 months ago, back up to 68. But, I mean, it's breaking out right now. These are some key levels here for Intel, looking like it wants to break out. So, I guess it's happening. We already took out that 50 period back down here at 50. That's a good 10% move now up to the upside for INTC. So, yeah. I mean, Global Foundries, again, probably some pull. We talked about Ford was too far too fast yesterday. I'm still holding it in my long-term account. So for me, I'm not going to be getting out of this. It's still undervalued anyway. So, but again, yesterday was a little bit euphoria. Kicked in with Ford. Everyone was talking about it. And we rifled it to the upside yesterday. We had this whole long. It's just today, we really like the short. And ever since I missed it on GM, I haven't really been looking back at anything here today. For a short. So GM, we called that short, man, at 66. What's on New York? I don't know why we just put NASDAQ there. And we missed it, guys, by 5 cents. Or actually less than that now that I see this tick. 77s. We were sitting there. I still have the order. I guess might as well cancel it. 65.80. So we had that 65.80 there, and we missed it by 3 cents, or else that would be a $1 win. But that is what that is. As right now, yes, sir. I just wish we had held it all. I can't do it because this is not the way we've been trading Palantir right now. But yes, we're at the highest level we've been at all day here as Palantir continues to go up. We just took our one last bid there, offer, at 50. Palantir, Neil, what a runner today.
Literally, I just talked to a BFS and got him a bid, and it just pops up like 40, 50 cents. The liquidity is not the greatest, so you kind of just have to sit there and look to get picked up. But some stocks you can just get in and out wherever you want. This is one where I sit on the bid and wait for it to actually someone sell and hit you, and that's always the only way to get in. I just got in here, but I had to pay up another 20 or 30 cents, unfortunately. It is what it is. But that DTST, which was the first halter of the day, which I think it is, got most of it out. I actually held on to a small percentage of it. I just got an Uber under it, by the way. But that $5 level still being maintained. This looks like it's setting up for a $5 break, in which I'll get out and reverse into a long. There's nothing to work off of here other than these even levels, right? So you have the whole price and you've got random even dollars here. So 5 goes, I'm out, I'm reversing into a long. I just mentioned getting into Uber for the first time. I like that 44.50 level for a couple of days now. It does finally take it up in the open today. I don't have the order. And if it can hold up this higher level at 44.80 in front of that 50 will be pretty good, but I'm not going to add until it bounces off of it. So just added a GFS long, just got an Uber for the first time. I'll be long DTST only if it breaks $5. And for now, I'm going to hold on to GM. I don't really know. There's a 64 level from yesterday up to like 64.40 that could turn into support. So until I see support made, I'm not getting out of it. Was that Brendan?
General Mills, guys, another obviously consumer staple type of stock. GIS here having a nice day. Just broke through day highs there on a volume spike. But I mean, even this type of name on a bit of a week and a half, 2 weeks long run for support. General Mills.
As long as it's not Kellogg's.
Twitter, guys. I mean, again, another 50-cent win right there. 40 cents comes right back. It was 50 cents a couple seconds ago. As we touched down to 35 there. 40 cents. 35, 44 cents. We just took some out at 50, so we took a piece out. We were going to wait for 40. It bounced around a little bit at 50, so we'll take that 25 or 22 cents there on Twitter, and now let's wait to see if it does fall back in even more than this. So I still think, we talked about shorting these companies that have been obliterated lately. I still don't like the environment for a lot of these names, so we'll see if it comes back down here. Twitter up 1.5% today. Probably shouldn't be into a negative NASDAQ, so that's why we short that name. Twitter continuing to make moves down to the downside. But, I mean, we're kind of just in chill mode right now. We talked about a DraftKings short at 27. Let's check out where that is right now. It's still bouncing around, so maybe this is no good. I'm going to cancel a little bit here. Actually, we'll still take a short. We'll take a short closer to 27. Like, if we can get, we're actually sitting at 95, so if we can, wow, that actually went to 90 there. Okay, so I just need to remove here. Let's take an offer. I mean, my prices have been almost dead on, almost to the point where it's been a detriment, where we're almost too accurate. We need to be a little bit more aggressive with our pricing here because sitting too close to 27 there, we miss it by 5 cents. We just did the short by 2 said. So again, a little more aggressive. Maybe that's something that we have to do here. I think we have to continue to hang sitting heads. Thanks for checking out the sticky note. It's all over that. So check that out. Also, the Palantir long is on there. So that's been a nice winner for us. And we'll just continue to look more. And Kathy selling Twitter. Yeah, I mean, that's what we're doing. And I told you guys today would be light for me. We didn't want to have too many positions on today. And so far, we're just going to do what we've been doing, making that cash. So let's just look more up.
Yeah, I mean, it should have been an opportunity, I guess, to show up more than the $5 in PTSD. That holds it like a charm. A lot of times I would have reloaded, but again, it's a low float runner, so taking multiple cracks at it when the volume is sticking up and it holds the high is usually not the best idea in the world. I got my bid to get out of the last of these shares in front of that whole bottom at 430. I think it's a separate trade. If we take that out, I'll be looking for a different style of trade down there. This Sens it now looks like it, okay, I actually just got filled at 93, so I've been waiting for this. It's been holding this 3 level. And I'm like, yeah, if it breaks this might actually make a run at 10s, 15s, maybe even at 20 tops. It finally broke 94, 95. Looks like it could be headed back down towards that 85. So this might work out. Global Foundries might not work out. So maybe there's something else going on here. I mean, obviously it's right down at the low. It hasn't broken the bottom yet, but it's going in the opposite direction here. So obviously Global Foundries not making the move I was anticipating after watching Intel so strong and thinking GFS might find itself a bit of a bid. That is yet to happen.
And bye-bye Twitter. We're just going to sit back, relax. Like I said, we may be done trading. I'm going to still find some more opportunities. I want to check out some Twitter. Some Tesla maybe, some Facebook. But yes, we'll raise it up, guys. Congratulations, everybody, today. I'll just look at every name that you guys want so far. So far, so good. 50 cents in the money on Twitter as this continues to go down. NEO making a nice little move backside. NVIDIA almost back to green, which has been nice. AMD ripping around as well today. Wow, I can't, darn it, we even talked about that bottom. That would have been great. So some missed opportunities here today, but what's been a good day so far. I don't want to throw good money here after good again, bad money after good if we don't have a good strategy. But right now, it's a nice move to the upside. Tesla as well, breaking 1160 now. It's been good, man. Micron almost at 100. Pfizer rocking and rolling. Cliffs up another 6%. New core running our account today is nice, so we're happy with that. And we're also happy with Brendan chilling out over there at the big screen.
Hey guys, 10 o'clock. Let's have a look at how we're doing so far. I mean, overall, it's kind of quiet outside of the NASDAQ. That's where the weakness is coming from. Again, you can see 0.37 there for the composite and the 100. Market's kind of in wait-and-see mode ahead of, again, the Fed minutes coming this afternoon. The Russell 1,000 back to red, but 2,000 still in positive territory. A lot of strength in small caps right out of the gates this morning, but they are starting to fade off a little bit here. S&P and the Dow exactly flat, we'll call it, at this point. Here in Toronto, 0.3 for the TSX. Let's have a quick look at a couple of things we were talking about. Yeah, Nikola with a nice move out of the gate this morning through that last little high there in the pre-market up to 1120. Decent volume still behind that. 10 more trucks ordered from Nikola. Fisker presenting some pretty cool technology, in fact, at CES today. Also on the list today, testing that high as we speak for Fisker, guys.
Yes, sir. And then DTSD, again, we always talk about the community being fantastic, and so I'll throw it back to you guys because I monitor the Hulk page, but when it gets active in the morning, sometimes if it's not on the list, you don't notice it, and I didn't flip to that page to see DTSD Hulk. You guys pointed it out, and it gives you a golden opportunity off of $5. Look, the Hulk upside, that works like gangbusters, so the long was just fine here. Whether it was breaking the high or taking the Hulk price up, so once it stalls at an even number like that 5, you take advantage of it. I'm out of it now, and I want to see it trade back below. I mean, it looks like at 425 volts, so you don't get to hit the 420, but 425 looks like that level. Uber, I did miss it off the open. I think it was on Robert Lucas, but Uber, I did miss it that first time. I'm going to pull it back to the higher time frame, so it looks a little better on the 15-minute chart. Like, this is that 1450 area break that I was talking about, but it did fail that at the top here to 44.80. So that's where you're buying the dip in front of it. I got it right now. I just got the first target out of the quarters. I'm taking out at 50s again, but when buying the dip, look back to those clusters where the breakout initiated and that failure, and all of a sudden that resistance turns into support, and you can use it on the way back down.
Another 40-cent win right there. So we'll go, yes, sir, as hopefully the Maple Leafs can get back in and start to play again at home would be nice. There it is. Look at this, guys. We take an Alibaba break. 126 out, 126.40. So a nice move there. We're still holding a small piece, but out 2/3. We'll see. We'll reload this back at 125, but there that goes. Oh, yeah, and guess what happened again? Look at this. Like, this is what we're doing today. We are absolutely just hitting these levels. Twitter comes all the way back up. We reload the short again. Boom, right back down again. Another. So that's an 80 print. Excuse me, remember we talked about being at 41.80. There it comes right back down to 41.60. So there's 30 cents. There's another 20 cents. And we'll still now hold another piece of Twitter here. The same piece, 41.80 short. So we'll hold that. Hey, if it takes out 42 now, we'll lose 20 cents. But we've already made 50. So far, so good on that trade. Alibaba pulling back in. We said we'd wait for a good opportunity. How about Alibaba? Charlie Munger to the rescue right now. Up to 126 and change. And still bumping. Here goes Alibaba. So we're starting to break out now. Obviously, I hold Alibaba. If this can get back to 170, we'll get out of that name. But right now, not today, obviously. But, well, that'd be nice. But if it gets up there at any time, there is some clusters there today. If it goes there today, then we'll just retire.
I'd sell it on the show. You got to get out. If it spiked up there, I'd be like, I'd rage to take that. I'd rage to take it.
Yeah, that's.
Don't get me wrong. I'm actually surprised that this hasn't been said because the whole Aunt Kathy thing. How has Uncle Charlie not been said at some point? I'm just saying. Uncle Charlie to the rescue?
Uncle Charlie could be your thing. So Uncle Charlie, and I'll take the Aunt Kathy and.
Well, only because of the Ark versus Berkshire
Uncle
thing.
Carl. Remember, that's Uncle Carl.
Hey man, if Uncle Carl gets involved, if you hold shares of something and Uncle Carl comes in, it's like the gift that never. It's just golden. He's a great activist. If he's on your side.
I was gonna say, let us know if anyone knows who Uncle Carl is, but I just don't know that.
Everybody knows who that is.
Okay. Great job, guys, on the Palantir. Thank you, Mike. I mean, thank you so much, guys. The Palantir reload, guys, an absolutely fantastic trade there. I'm super pleased that you have that as well, Mike. I mean, and thank you. This is for all you guys out there. We'll go. Sometimes our ideas are good, but we'll fire off some hot dogs for you there, Mike. So look at this idea. What about a better? Like, we're bigging up our look. Palantir, I'm super happy with it. It's a great trade. I just like it because we loaded it up. We're confident, and this was what we talked about again. Tips for new traders: buy things, trade things that you're comfortable with. But this is a 40-cent winner. I have a 40-cent winner right here on Twitter, and I'm not even talking about it. So there it is. It's a nice move down on Twitter. But this is what we're doing, man. All we're really doing is just stacking it up, man. Going to the carnival, putting our money down, getting the trades that we like, hitting them, and there's another successful one. So yeah, we ride the bear today to prosperity as this is going. And then look at Alibaba again, right back to day's high. We have that. This is what I mean by sometimes sitting on your hands and just flat out chilling is going to be the winning trade. So right now, Alibaba up, another 60-cent win for us. This market is rocking. 50 cents for Palantir, 70 cents for Alibaba, and 40 cents for Twitter. We'll take it.
I was going to say it's a bit of a turn on the NASDAQ. Not huge, but like a tiny turn just sort of coming back down. You'd hate to see, like, you get that wick bottom. For us not to break back out at like 16.3 or so wouldn't be a very good sign for the overall market. But, well, that's the overall market. I shouldn't say for the NASDAQ specifically, for tech specifically. That means global foundries might not work. Thankfully here, I'm not moving my target. Actually, no, I did move my target a little bit on GM. When I traced it back, and I'll keep it on the 1 minute, when I traced it back, I sort of looked at the opening range at 10 o'clock. This top was at 63.80 or so. Then that became support. So if it gets down to that level, I'll get up somewhere between that and 64. But for now, it's beneath 64. It's just a small change there when we zoomed out, because we always say when it does zoom out, we're supposed to look at ourselves on that. Still hanging on to this sends position. I have not gotten the last of my bids for now at 85. Even if I get this fill, I'll still be in half. I got the reload a couple times at 3 even. This has a decent chance that if it takes out 285, we could be heading right back to where it was in yesterday's price action. Uber, I have not reloaded just yet. I think there's going to be an opportunity here. It's bounced one more time off of that 44.80-ish level. I got the long around 45 even, but with the market looking like it might want to break back down, I don't want to be reloading the long if the NASDAQ is going to be failing that level. I think, You know, I'll ride it if it continues to go higher, but no need to double dip down here when it's already shown you a break. And if you miss the big move on the break and you get the dip, sometimes you just got to take the muted profit there and not get too greedy. You can't get that FOMO that you missed the bigger move. You got to trade what's in front of you, and what's in front of me is saying we could reverse here, and I want to make sure I don't turn a winner into a loser.
More to Ethereum. Okay, I don't know what that means, but right now, WonderFi again, another 8%. We had them on yesterday. Shout out to Kevin over here and all the WonderFi team that they were on yesterday. You could have taken the open trade. You got like 235, 240, something like that. So you can be long there, and then a nice little move to the upside. What was it doing yesterday all day though? Kind of some barcoding here. So not doing a lot yesterday, not a whole hell of a lot of volume, but still a nice move up. And there's, yeah, so you could have had the trade yesterday. What are these prices? Yeah, so you don't have to close. You could have 240, you probably hit the ask again. Not much volume. Today's volume pretty good, 620,000. I think it averages, you know, 600. But there's a nice move up again. WonderFi buying BitBuy yesterday, so a good buy for them. And obviously the market is rewarding us. Shout out to everybody long on WonderFi. Okay, Apple weak today, but that kind of goes without saying, as Apple just continues to make moves every day. But again, the market is 0.44. Look at Apple, 0.28. So you're the same. It's the same level. Yeah. Let's go, Twitter. So just looking at Apple, but I'm going to go back over to Twitter because right now we are at the, not day's low, but at the low here of my holdings as Twitter just continues to go to the downside here. We're short Twitter up here, and now it's back in. So this could be just an area to clear it out. 41.25. Obviously, if the NASDAQ does go tank city here, as does Twitter. So I like this short. We're in this, and we'll see if we can hold it. But right now, Twitter to the basement here, hopefully. And this is what we talked about. If you don't like the sticky note, that's fine. And I'm sorry that I keep on pumping it, but honestly, the feedback that we get, it's the most liked and retweeted in any post that any of us put out here is the sticky note. And look what we talked about right here. We talked about this shorting. I actually, before I set this up, I had Twitter here instead of DraftKings, but we shorting some of these names. Talked about Twitter here, so let's see that. I also wrote down, let's see if AMC is going today. So we do want to have another look. Let's put this out, check it out. The sticky note today gives you a few different names, man. It gives you the GM short, might be top heavy. That's been a cash money short if you're a GM. We talked about Nikola taking out the pre-market high. It does that, and now it's way in the money. I forgot to check on Beyond Me. Palantir's playing off the 18 long. Can't say anything about that one. And then DraftKings, we haven't hit anything today because it's not moving. But Brendan has another name, I believe.
A little one, Boxlight, we've talked about before, BOXL, out with new financing this morning. And they closed an acquisition of this front row. So if you're into the lower priced, very, very high liquidity type of stocks, this one, a decent one. BOXL up 8%.
Another low liquidity name that's now part of the back and forth in the 100% club is LIXT. Volume is holding, it's over 60 million in volume now and holding up rather nicely. So if this makes it run at the high, I wouldn't be terribly surprised. A great consolidation. Daily chart's going to show you there's a wick up here to like 350. I think that's going to be a reasonable level if it can shoot through this current 310 high. A couple of failed breaks at the open, which has been a great rollover. Of course, it's like that setup, man. It's like tries to get through the pre-market high right at 930. There's a million names where you see this happen. If you get a runner that does this, you're shorting the first consolidation that you can get. That was at 295. It wasn't on my radar. I'm just sitting here wishing it was. If it makes the break right now at 75, I think it has a chance to then pop and then get to that 310 only because the volume is good. But if it doesn't really fail to break up to there, I think it's worth the short opportunity. For now, I'm looking to break out at 280. That's a scalp trade because I think you're taking 15 to 20 cents into that $3 level. Uber is going to go back up. Remember I said I didn't want to reload it? It's going to go, and if I reloaded it would have been fine, but I didn't want the NASDAQ turning on me and then reloading something at the bottom when I'd already had a bit of a winner on it. So sometimes you can break your rules and it would have worked out for you. I don't think it was warranted doing it here. If it does get towards that high Uber, back up to that 45, 75, I will be closing the trade because that was the move initially.
Yeah, great pick up on the bottom there. And again, the NASDAQ's rallied here a little bit. We're starting to come back upside though. So this is the kind of, rally, not really, rally off the bottom, I guess. And now it's starting to make that new bottom possibly here. It's right at, is this the 50? Hold on a second here. Because I just recently changed this. I thought this is still view up, okay. Where you still using view up, the 50 period is only on daily. So just want to make sure of that because this doesn't seem but it must be. And again, it's volume weighted, right? So when you see the big spikes here off the open, it takes that into consideration, which is what I want. So volume weighted average price is not super accurate right off the open, but right now it should be settled down and go back down to 10, 11 or so. But there's the bounce back up, and we just failed right there. So look at Twitter continuing to be a 50-cent winner to the downside, trying to make new bottoms. Maybe we're getting too greedy, but if we can get down here to 40.70 and take the dollar on that name, that's probably what we're going to do here and wait for that. Alibaba continues to be a winner, but it's struggling on the upside now. So we'll see. It's trying to break out through this 126. We've already taken 40 cents on the first part. Now we'll wait to see if it can take out more. I am trying to load this back up at 125. Flat basically on the downside, so we'll wait to see if that can come in. If we can get that reload, but I'm just gonna, this is one name that it'll look nasty, but we've already taken, like this was a good trade because it's breaking the level, right? We like when it breaks levels. If we're gonna average into something, man, there's no way I'm confident enough with Alibaba, especially a Chinese name, to load anything up. But I do notice that there might be some support down here at 124.50 or so. So if we can get a 125 back in, we'll wait to see what happens here at 124. Fully aware that this could continue a move to the downside if it gets going. Up 5% on Baba, probably a great opportunity for a lot of the smart money to come in and sell this move up. We're going to play the momentum. We're underweight China right now for sure. How could they be overweight, really? So underweight China right now. We'll see if we can play off Alibaba to the long side. We're still in it. We've already taken 40 cents. We're going to see if that can go. And unfortunately, well, it's not unfortunate. We'll just be Superman on this play. But Palantir, we took off a third, 20% and 25% of what we had left when it broke through up there at 30. So that's fine. It's been a good move upside for Palantir. A great trade there off of what is another great bottom of 78. And how many times is he going to touch that? Who knows? But that's that trade right now.
I mean, eventually, with a support level, eventually it just doesn't.
That's right. That's why you got to get
eventually it runs away from it, and then that's gonzo, and you got to pick a higher one. I'm canceling order on Wejo that I should have done maybe like 10, 15 minutes ago. I would not want this fill. Like when it was screaming up here, and I wanted to extend a little bit further, closer to 8. That was one thing, thinking I was about to get touched as it came up. But when it's fallen back down and holding this $7 level again. If it bases off of this and then were to break that high, I wouldn't want that 790 or 780 short. On the other end of the coin here is this $7 level for a breakdown. If it breaks 7, we could be seeing like 6 to 620, filling everything back in from the move that it made post-market yesterday. So it's got a 7 floor. I'm now looking for a 7 break as opposed to waiting for it to come back to the upside. So we try to let you guys know it's not just like what we're looking at, what we're in, but sometimes those trades where we're looking for a specific setup, something changes, and then the course of action is going to change for me here on I'm just going to call it WEJ. GFS, Global Foundries, it's trying to go. I mean, it's a weird one because obviously you're seeing what's going on with the semis making their run. It's made the bottom, and when Intel was ripping and it was right at this low at 63, it was hard not to want to have this as a long trade, but it's not really going. I have an offer in front of this level at 64. I have an offer in front of this next support there at 64.50, or sort of previous support at 64.50. And then from there, I'll just hold on to the rest to see what happens. If it breaks 65, great. I don't see any way it does that without the market participating, but this is the one that is frustrating. Like, obviously I lost in Chevron, but then I ran away from it. And then the only thing that isn't working out for me here is what seemed like a no-brainer. And maybe it's my bias to Global Foundries. I like the company. But right now I'm just looking for it to extend and make the move that Intel was able to make. If you look at that, like to look at this chart of Intel and see Global Foundries barely break off the bottom. I know Intel, great news with Mobileye and what they're bringing and then spinning that out as well. It's also good. It's a good value name in the chip sector. It also gives you a play to the foundries that makes money and churns it out there. Those are better than GFS. But at some point, if this continues, there's no way you shouldn't drag something like GFS with it. Although, I guess I should never say never, because then suddenly you tell God your plans, you know what happens.
Yeah, and that's why I'm not going to give my exact prices anymore. But Twitter, we're tweeting this out right now to see if anybody else has this, man. This is a great trade here for us on Twitter. Look at this thing just fall apart. This is an 80-cent winner right now on TWTR, and it just keeps on coming down to the downside. So we'll see if that one wants to. I said in the tweet I just put out right now that the target right here, guys, sub 40. 40, right? Sub 41, sorry. So we're already there. I didn't even realize we were going down to there, but there's the check mark into this area, 40, 70, something like that. But hit me up on Twitter if you have any questions, anything like that. I'll try to do my best to get to them. And those of you that do hit me up know that I answer as many as I can on that one. And there it is now. Now a dollar in the money. Trying to diamond hand this one a little bit here. Alibaba, okay. So now on Alibaba, and the good thing about the Twitter trade is really that we did this. So it does come back up and reloads this up there and we get that out. So here we go. Alibaba, long right now, 125.40 here on Alibaba. You can see the spread is dangerous, man. This spread is like 20 cents there when it gets going. So we reloaded down here at 125 flat, giving us an average price of 125.40. If this can bump up just a little bit like we did in the 70s, we'll take another 30-cent winner and then hold it for a fly. So we'll see. Here it comes. Yeah, let's go Alibaba. Nice little win rate again. Neil, this has been an awesome day.
I actually just got reloaded to General Motors. So talking about reload, the lower high that it put in off of that first failure was 65.35. We waited around for that price. We tried to get it up here. We'll get it the second time through, which isn't always the best, but I'm still going to stay committed to it and get right back into it. Uber not reloading just yet. I did just adjust some orders on my Sense trade. But Tesla, it's interesting. Like GM just keeps coming back up, right? I pull over to Tesla, and again, it's just opposite directions for these two. As that comes back to the upside, Tesla bounces back down into VWAP. So going to be interesting to see if we bounce off of VWAP here in Tesla and go back towards those highs. I wouldn't even bother longing it because if the pattern holds true, that would mean to me that I don't know what Ford is doing, but that would mean to me that GM would continue its reversal, come right back down to VWAP itself. So I want to see if that relationship is going to hold true. It has been for the last couple of days. I know we haven't traded Beyond Meat, but the reason I'm not in Beyond Meat is because it just started falling too fast, and it never gave an entry for the short. It just kept going and going and going down without ever giving you any kind of a pop short a level that I like. So this is definitely going to be one that got away. That kind of is an easy thing to say on Beyond Meat. And your DPST, if you're still watching that early halt, it's looking pretty weak. It's held the halt price, that 425, so no breakdowns just yet. It seems like it's just a matter of time. 425 goes the halt price. I want to go short on this name, but I've been waiting around for it for like 20 or 30 minutes. But you got to be a bit patient sometimes.
Yes, we got another DM shot trade on DM as well. We short that pop back to the upside there on that one. So we'll wait to see where we go for GM right now. I like this trade to the short side, but obviously we want to reload it a lot more upside. So we'll see if it continues to go up. You do see a little bit of a pullback up also in Ford right now off that bottom. So hey, I'm a holder of both GM and Ford stock and Tesla and Fisker, and that's about it as far as the EV space is concerned. And today you were getting a nice little bump up in Fisker, but now you're flat again. So 1750, that could get taken out. But again, I don't really love these names in this environment. And it's just one of those things where you got to be very, very patient with what you're doing here in the EV space. You may want to just look at like what is it, Drive, DRIV, I believe, the ETF there on the NASDAQ. Okay. This could be a name that you want to look at just to sort of spread out some of the the exposure in this space. If you don't want to pick a name, it's been working. Obviously, they've got, I'm going to assume when I see this kind of movie, Tesla in this ETF. If they don't, then that's something wrong. It's an electric EV space, so we'll have to see there. Don't know much about it, but I do see you guys talking often about Drive. So if you did want to get into something that's electric vehicles, let me give you the exact name running this thing. It's the autonomous and electric vehicle ETF. So yeah, you are going to get some other plays in there as well, which is nice with autonomous vehicles. So anyways, the Drive ETF might be a little safer if you don't want to like pick a winner, but that's just something to look at there as a fun one to trade. That is for sure. But not much happening in the market right now. So I guess it's small cap recap time. It's going to be Longeveron, which was a back and forth name today. That's could have gone the third time on that. Yep.
Yeah, so frustrating on LGVN. Back and forth, a good way to put it, regardless of which way you're looking at it. I mean, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down throughout the pre-market. 1420 ends up being a bit of an area. 1450 above that was that last place that it stalled out. So it was kind of, puts them on, takes them off, puts them on, takes them off through the entire pre-market. And then I added it all back on at the open. But kind of stalling out. You can see volume dying off pretty quick here for LGVN, still up 12.5%. Frustrating was down a bunch, now back to basically flat on LGVN. This WEJO 775, I just wasn't looking high enough initially. Ends up being a good trade, but 750, 775, a good area for WEJO, ends up being a decent fade. This SENS, I was just telling Valeria, sometimes the boring, slow, not exciting trades end up being your best stock of the day, which is the case for this one today. 310, there was 320 was the high of day. We're down to 285. Again, though, down here, a problem. Volume kind of back guys.
And volume, well, I was about to say volume not dying on Micron. It is slowing down, but it's 1020. Everything is. But Micron getting towards the high of the day. Another breakout looming here, but just watch out. It's a high of the day break, but on the daily chart, whoops, it's on that next year. There we go. Micron on the daily chart, it's been a strong run for it. Again, one other thing that makes me feel like Global Foundry should go, but breaking out off of this 96 high and heading towards 100. 100's a round number that's going to be hard to ignore when Micron gets there. I love Micron, but $100, count me in, be all over that level too. If I see an offer there, usually the first time you get to a round number, it's a pretty good fade. Like sort of similar to the notion of what Apple did at that 3 trillion mark. Psychological levels are profit-taking centers for people because we're human beings and we kind of fall into those sort of random traps. And I think the same thing could happen to Micron at 100. Maybe that push and the Nasdaq finding a bit of a bid will finally make this workout on Global Foundries. It got so close. I was sitting on the offer right up here at like 63.85. I kind of touched there breaking VWAP and did not give me my first fill. I'm not moving it. It has a 10-cent spread, so it's going to come up there. Either it hits you or doesn't. But for now, it looks like it's found a bit of a bottom. And as long as that's the case, it puts in a higher low. I think I have a chance to be able to hold it all day long. Will it go green on the day? I don't think it has 66 in it, so I'll probably be out before it gets there. But there we go. Finally, the one thing that wasn't, well, the second thing that wasn't working because Longeveron, man, that was frustrating this morning. The Global Foundry is finally catching that big. First target hit. Next is in front of 64.50, and then we'll see if it can run a bit. It's just, I find it hard to believe that it couldn't catch up, at least a little bit, after seeing everything else in the space break out today.
Yeah, I hope that Global Foundries can go to the upside, just like I'm hoping right now Palantir wants to go. We did take another 06 bid right now as it comes right back down. And that was, again, we talked about being out. We had 5% or 10% left. We've got a piece out, we've got a third out there, and then another third out right now, and then we still hold a little bit as our average comes back in and we take again. So as you can see, right, this is how you know that I was basically out of the position as my average price now upsized to 1803 from being down here. So we've just reloaded up down here. So we'll see where it goes. Now another reload on Palantir as it comes right back in. And again, we're not, just like William Craig out there again. Thank you for the super chat. He made his whole day off the open and made it real quick. This is when you want to play these names. You don't need to be sitting here watching some of these names just bleed all day. You want to make sure that you can play these names at the proper time and then hit it with the proper shares when it starts to move, right? So that's basically just the key here to trading is understand when volume is present and when you can actually make that money back in on some of these names. Hit your levels, but understand share size. Like I just loaded back up at 6, and here comes Palantir right now, right back in. I thought I had an offer at 13 or 14. It's at 15 right now, so let's see if we can get another out here at 14. There it goes, taking a few to get fulfilled there, but we'll see if it breaks through 14. Nah, it might not. And then we'll take the 14 out fully, and then we will also get a 15, hopefully. There it is, 15. It just rips through everything. So there's Palantir again on the reload. Bang, comes right through right there. I can't even load up those bangs anymore, Rob. Your system is so fast over here. There it is. And then you want another big winner. How about Alibaba back to the upside? Let's take another 36 offer if we can get it. We reloaded on Alibaba right there, 124.50. So hell yeah, that's another 60-cent win for Alibaba. Like, wow. I know you're having all the success today too. This has been a big day, man. Hopefully the TFS can keep going out.
Well, I mean, the Nasdaq's starting to go, right? So look, if that bottom on the, I'm going to do this instead of going back over. You guys can see my Nasdaq starting to rise. But when you get a wick bottom like this, right? Wick off bottom, I should be saying. You break that low of the day. It looks like it's going to be another sell day, and then you snap back up. I'm telling you, you can break this top. I'm not a room, but I know what a bottom like this can look like. If you were to take this back out at 16.25, you want to hold on to some of your longs, right? This is why I actually just reloaded into Uber, and then hopefully little rounders can go. Now I'm going to continue to scalp this in front of the high, but if we take out that top, it's to hold your longs, and if you're short something, it's like make sure that it's like a small cap or something unrelated to the market, because I'm starting to think about this, even GM here, you know, as it tries to get back up to that top. Look, it hasn't broken the high. Like, it has a chance to roll back over, but I want to be patiently rolling back into it. We didn't mention this, and I think someone in the chat did, we should say, CEO of GM is going to be on another program at 2:15. So if you happen to be in position there, you know what can happen when Murray Barr starts talking, and then they get the release coming through. So you'll want to always pay attention to things like that. So at 2:15, you watch out on GM.
Lithium stocks, guys, having another good day after yesterday. LODE, a little tiny one, $1.50 stock just popped up, 2-day high. So they finalized the deal for this Linico Corporation, which has expanded their lithium mining rights and property ownership. So LODE on the NYSE Arc exchange.
Here today.
Yeah, I know. Oh, what the? Oh, no. Oh, no.
Should load up on that stock.
I got out of, darn it. Damn, darn, dope right there, but it's a nice win anyways. I didn't even realize. I was just looking at something there. I didn't even realize that we just took there. We're going at 124.60. We just took another out there at 125.75. So another dollar in the money there, but we talked about reloading it, and I did not mean to leave that order pending there, and I didn't. We just got run over. But hey, Alibaba added to the stacking up of the cash today, so we reloaded, and now we stack up that cash on Alibaba. So yes, as the market looks to go green, all we're sort of doing is making sure that some of this money doesn't come flying out. But hey, that was a great reload. I think we still had that on right there for that trade on Alibaba. But anyways, a good bunch of trades there on Alibaba. So yes, sir, we ring the Reggie on that one. We ring it pretty hard. Okay, Twitter goes back up. We take it out every quarters. I just thought the Nasdaq was maybe going the upside there, so we do take that out. But another good trade for me on Twitter. We were hoping that it was going to be a little bit lower. We'll cancel our Nikola trades here. That doesn't look like that's going to come through right now. And then really GF back up here. I'm waiting at 70, and of course it goes to 60. So let's take another short here on GF. Very, very small position, obviously, right there. You're going to see when I reload, my average price will be much, much better up here. So again, I see very far comes on. CNBC is a sell. So we'll short this thing right now. Add to this position on GF of what's been just a bang up day over here. What's up, Brenda?
I just saw Fisker, guys, back to day highs here. A little bit of volatility coming back in. Remember, they're presenting at CES today, so there might be some headlines regarding FSR, but just took out the high there on some volatility. Fisker, let's get a quick check of how European markets are doing so far. 10:30, 1 hour to go.
Hey, Brandon, European markets are positive and alongside global markets keep eye on rising US bond yields. Online supermarket Ocado trading in London is up around 4% after very great news stock to buy from.
Yeah, yields up. I was looking at 10-year earlier today, but it's kind of faded off a little bit here, but back to the highs.
Well, a few things to update here. We'll do DTSC broke the 425 home price on the downside. It got short at 24. I scalped them out in front of the teams. I'll get a bid out in front of this cluster at 380. The other thing that happened here that was good was Global Foundries touched second level of 6440. In front of that 6450 level, it's bouncing back to the downside. I'm going to reload this in front of 63 if I get a chance. So going to patiently wait there. Eventually it had to. Obviously you saw the Nasdaq try to bump back up. Eventually it did follow through. But the one that did 40 out is that Uber, right? So Uber, we reloaded the second time in front of that 44.75 area, got to that in front of VWAP, and then it broke that support. So I'm out of Uber, at least for now. It's still going to be a winning trade because I wasn't holding for the home run. You missed the bigger trade at the open. Sometimes you got to anticipate that that's going to be the case, and into a bit of a downward trend here, despite the market trying to make a move here. It is what it is. I'm not necessarily done with it because it's holding support at 44. On the open, you have that level. You also have that breakout originally, this resistance point at 44.35 to 44.50, that's still very much in place. So if it gets down into that range here, I still might look to catch another bottom here in Uber, but I'm going to sit it out for about 30 to 40 cents before doing that.
So now we are in General Motors. We wanted, and again, it's just being impatient. Remember my first trade was 65.80? Well, we'd have it if we just waited for it. But right now, GM obviously starting to go up, back up to the upside here. So our average price now is 60. So this will be a 40-cent hit. If it takes out 66, it's got to make sure, yes, I do have that order in. So that's good. If it does take out 66, we'll get out of at least a significant part of this. And then we'll see what happens on that top. And the reason why we like that 66 top was yesterday. It was the top, and it's been the top here again. I guess yesterday was the market, I guess. It was about 1 o'clock or so. We touched about 65.98. However, why doesn't it show that on my 1 minute chart here? Oh yeah, 65.85, I guess. Right here. Oh no, it touches it really early. No, but yeah, 1 o'clock. So we get to $66 at about 1 o'clock yesterday. So that's kind of the high that we're looking at. It takes that out, and then we will have our first losing trade on, despite a little bit back and forth there with Von Chevron. It's not actually much happened on that one, but we will see that in a minute. Well, Brendan already did it. So we're going to watch out for GM. It looks like it's facing up 66 right now. So this one will be our first kind of like real decent hit here today if this does take out 66. So I probably won't put any more shares on right now. I'm happy with my price being at 60. If it comes back to the downside, we can always take a piece out. Like I said, when it starts to go, it starts to happen right here about 65.40. So that would be a spot for my first out. Take 20 cents, which is basically we're risking 40. So if it can come back down, that would be good. And then again, we'll see about a lower low here. But right now, General Motors looking to take out that top. Not overly confident with this position, but we're in it for a reason. So let's see if that reason pans out.
Yeah, I'm sort of with you there. I like taking more shares only if it can, I guess, fail at 60. Actually, technically, it did just fail at 66. Maybe I should be doing it now because it got to 87. That's pretty close. I missed that Wejo stock broke 7 even. My stop order triggered and didn't get filled because I didn't cross it aggressively enough. So I ended up getting back. I ended up getting in on the way back up. So I'm short Wejo at 94, but that wasn't on the way down. It actually snapped down to 681, and then I got filled on the way back up at 94. I don't mind, it's fine. And then if it breaks like 718 to 720, like this level here, I'll just get out of it. It's a breakdown trade now for me on Wejo. I was initially looking short the pop. It decided it wanted to go the other way. Now we're into WJO for the first time, actually. It's my first trade on this stock. I talked about it a few times. Checking back in with Sens, it just actually hit the bottom finally and got to 285. So we shorted this one on the consolidation. We shorted the 3 break. We reloaded at 3, and now it's finally taking out that low. All that's left for it to do is fill it all back in, down to 275, right? So I'll be flat if it gets down to 275. I will be all out. But the process of starting to cover it is going to have to happen right here, right now. So I'm going to get my bids out there, call them stink bids or whatever. Again, it's just the same thing I did when it broke 3. I'm going to get my bids in, close the flushes. I'll be out of Sens. It gave you several looks here, but the reason I really love this trade in either direction was as simple as it gaps up out of a consolidation. It shows you got the 50 period up here at 320, and you had the 200 at 305 essentially. And then the pre-market range at the top was the exact same thing. So it holds those levels for its range. To me, that says if it breaks out of the range, I'm taking it. It's that simple. I would have taken it long if it broke 320. I took it short when it broke to the downside. It's just, to me, it's pretty binary at that point. I love trades where it's easy to follow your rules because the rules are pretty simple.
Oh, we did? Yeah. I mean, trading is rule-based. There's really nothing else to it. You can play your emotions a little bit and go with some momentum, but you got to have a rule where you're going to get out if there's a problem. Right? So watch out for that one. All right, so we're already short GM. That's working out really nice right now. New member alert. What's up to Paul Mall? Paul Madden there. Thank you so much again for that. And we also did, bless you, we also have right here a super chat somewhere for $5 that I saw.
Did I get the wrong thing?
I don't know. Anyways, there was a super chat there, and I apologize as I scroll through here. I don't. Oh, here it is, right here.
Each other wrong.
Swanchy right now.
Swanchy.
Yep.
That's from
I have no idea.
Oh, Rick and Morty.
Yeah, I don't watch Rick and Morty. I need to watch that, I guess.
Great show, Rick
and Morty. Thanks for the Palantir trade. You are welcome, my friend, for that trade today. What sectors on my long short? I mean, I'm long. Thanks for asking again, Squanch there. I am very, very long. Obviously, big cap tech. I continue to love that space. I don't see anything wrong with that. I mean, as long as you're in the big names, like a Softy, like an Apple, we like all that. But again, good opportunities to reload as these are down a couple percentage points right now. If I had to pick a sector, we talked about this yesterday, is just get diversified. So the pick that I gave you about last week or so was XLF because I didn't really favor a bank. I like Morgan. I like JP. I mean, I'm in JP Morgan, but maybe buy some Morgan Stanley. That's a name that I'm pretty light on. So I like the XLF right now as well. And then we talked about XLE. Like, you can't ignore some of these. The energy plays continue to be pretty hot. So I don't know. I let them settle down now because they've just been so extended right now, especially the XLE trade. So I'd let them settle down a little bit. But for me, these are the kind of areas that I like. And then I am nibbling, as some of you guys know here, into ARC, which is, again, down again today. I just feel like, some of these names continue to get beat up. As look what's happening to GM, by the way. Hell yes, mamma mia. We talked about GM coming right back down, and that's that trade that we like. So when you're in the business, you reload it to the upside as there it goes. Good morning, GM. Wake up and get down to the downside.
Go to Brendan, I'll show you this.
Right away.
BTCS, day highs here, early halter out of the gate this morning, up 50% now, in fact, for, what is this called again? BTCS Incorporated. So they come out this morning and say this, they're going to pay their dividend in Bitcoin. Interesting for BTCS.
Look, I think that's the beginning of, it's not really the beginning. I guess this is like around 800 million of positive news. You're going to start seeing this. People want to take salary in Bitcoin. Like, why wouldn't you start thinking about paying a dividend, especially if you hold it in crypto? Obviously, look, whether they do or not, it kind of doesn't matter because you can always take whatever you get and convert it if you wanted to. But it's just reducing those barriers is what I want to get through there. I haven't taken it. You get any MGM there?
I loaded. I don't want to get it out. It's just right now we'll unplug a little bit here because we called this. This is finally we missed that big move in the morning, right? So let's see if we can get it now. We just take out 20 cents on that short, and now we'll see if it can fall back in. I told you guys, and again, this is honestly the biggest thing for me about this show, and I hope that you guys are sort of feeling a lot of this, is that very well structured. I said that my first out would be right here at 40. So I'm trying to give you guys levels that I'm looking at here, 20 years plus experience. This is all coming for free. And again, whatever it means to you, take it with either a grain of salt or just try to learn. We've got a lot of super chats where people have finally turned around their trading, finally started to come to the upside on their profitability. And again, that's why I keep doing this to that's why we keep on talking about things like this. And if you keep supporting us, we'll keep being here for you. So I think that's something that's really important. And there's the first take on this trade. I mean, we don't have any negative trades today. Honest, we don't have one. There's not one on board here. Alibaba's been a big trade for me. Man, Longeveron was back and forth. Good thing we got out of that. I actually consider this a win. The fact that we're not still long that name. Palantir, I mean, what else can we say about Palantir? That's what I feel like. Just coming right out the rear there on Palantir. And then Twitter. How much better can we get on Twitter other than not getting out right there? So far so good. And then, by the way, GM now tanking even more. And this is why we reload. It gives us the opportunity, guys, that when the pins line up, we're able to sit there and take some